Welcome, Ultrers and Switchy Sisters alike, to episode 14 of the weekly episodic gaming adjacent livestream podcast show. This is Switch 2 Ultra, live on Monday nights. Normally. You see, up to this point, we have had a perfect unbroken streak of weekly episodes since the show began at the end of March. And seeing as this is the 14th episode, which is also the podcast episode of the previous continuity I did way back in the day with my friends before we all split, there will be no podcast next Monday, as we both have summer-related plans. That also seems like the perfect time to get all those in. Speaking of plans, earlier today, ahead of this stream, just because it happened to be the last day of the month, I released the teaser for the next Natter Chamber video that I'm working on, the next one that's going to come out. The video made it seem like it's going to be closer to I'm talking about the Fantastic Four, because the movie is coming out in July. And I wanted to talk about the multimedia crossover aspects. The cartoons, games, all that stuff, radio, toys, prior to the 90s, all the very early age, some would say like golden age comic stuff, when it comes to Fantastic Four, because I found that topic really interesting, and also I wanted to know where all those samples were coming from. And the video made it seem like it would come out way later. I'm shooting for still like this week, but that may not happen. But that's a Switch to Ultra scoop. I don't know when it is. Also, I'm gonna say this now, because I had no intention of saying it. But again, I forgot how annoying people can be. There's still gonna be Total Drama at the end of July. Alright, you guys can fucking chill out now. You can cool it. It's fine. There's still gonna be Total Drama. You don't have to ask me every time. Anyway, welcome to the Switch 2 Ultra family. I'm your co-parent, BH Ultra.
And I am your co-parent, Switchy.
And this is the last episode of a month, kicked off with the launch week of the Nintendo Switch 2, which launched with, let's be real, one big game in Mario Kart World, which we both enjoyed our time with Mario Kart World, but now that it's been a month and the dust is settled, it seems a lot of vocal people are turning on it and souring on it. So I just wanted to use this short episode as a discussion, a way to check in, as nothing important is really happening now, and when we come back in 2 weeks, it'll be the week of the release. We won't have the game, but it'll be days before Bonanza comes out. So I wanted to check in on how we both feel about Mario Kart World and its recent updates, basically a month after.
Switchy, I think a lot of the story was kicked off because recently Nintendo did a patch that, to my understanding, I haven't been playing the online that much, but effectively they did a patch that covered up what you could call, or what they might call, an exploit or a glitch, where if you selected a random race in the Mario Kart World multiplayer, the online multiplayer, it would play the 3-lap version of that race. And apparently, at least to our understanding, that wasn't intended. So for those of you that don't know, Mario Kart World, one of the big new selling points about it is that it introduces a bunch of new. It doesn't have just have 24 whatever tracks. Is it 24? It'd be 4 times 8, 32. 32 new tracks. It also has tracks between the tracks, or what I think is colloquially called intermissions. I forget if that's actually a term coined by Nintendo themselves, or that's just a thing the fans called. So during the average Grand Prix, you'll play one track for 3 laps, and then the next track, or the next race of the 4 races, involves driving to the next course and then racing on that course. And this has seemed to be a bit of a controversial change for a lot of fans. So much so that when word got out about this glitch or exploit, whatever you want to call it, people started always selecting random in the multiplayer mode, effectively because a lot of people prefer just 3 clean laps over the intermissions. Because, do you want to say something?
Oh no, so I'm listening because I had heard rumblings about this and people tried to like explain it to me, but it wasn't as succinct as that because I wasn't fully understanding. I wasn't aware that all the tracks even had 3-lap versions, because I know there's some tracks that are 3 laps as you do it, but only like the last lap. Like maybe
is the track, basically. Yeah.
Something like the Savannah one, I think. I could be remembering that wrong, but like only the last lap is that track. I mean, maybe it just loops 3 times. But I didn't play online. I was like, because I didn't, I wasn't aware there was a ticking clock. I'm like, I'll just play online eventually. And obviously now if I play online, I have no way of...
I don't need to find out how bad I am at Mario Kart, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one big element of that is that I think the way the online is meant to what it's meant to kind of, I guess, simulate is the idea that you're with a bunch of people and you're racing around the world. So basically, when I played today, just to kind of get an idea of it, and I've seen it, like, you're all in an area of the island, you're doing free roam while you wait, you select which course you want to go to next. So whatever gets selected, you basically do a race where you drive from the course you're currently at or just raced at to the next course. So every single race seems to be an intermission involving going to the next course. So in some ways I kind of like that. I like the idea of me in this lobby, we're kind of going around the island and we vote on where to go next. I find that kind of cute.
Yeah.
But the downside of it is that, frankly, the lack of intermission, the intermissions, I guess are tough pill to swallow for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while I think I would have said so too, in the sense that, for example, like, it is a little bit frustrating that Airship Fortress, for example, I love that course. I'm pretty sure that's one of the courses where, at least in the Grand Prix mode, you spend 2 of the 3 laps driving to it, and the last lap is only on it. And I love Airship Fortress, and I think it's a really fun map, or at least I love the visuals. And I guess I think I'd rather play 3 laps on it than just play 1 lap on it and spend the other 2 laps getting to it. I guess it's a less fun gameplay loop for some people, and I guess that it really just goes down to that. I think some people would rather just play 3 laps on a course, on like a more streamlined course, than kind of do the driving between and stuff like that.
Yeah, with the details I got, I was unaware that it was even like a glitch or an exploit. I just thought that there was a game mode that allowed you, because like the average person wouldn't even probably understand that it was a glitch. They're just like, oh, if you do this, you can get the 3-lap version. I'd say the layman would just assume it was intentional. So now that not that it makes sense, not that I'm like agreeing with them, but the way you described it and explained it, like, oh, there was this glitch or exploit and Nintendo patched it out, I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds like Nintendo. They're very vehemently against their games being played in a way that isn't the intended format. Like, I think a lot of people kind of lump it in with, oh, they hate the competitive community. But that's not necessarily true. I think what they dislike are what I just said, the games being played differently. Whether that be a mod of a game or a way to, like, special rule set when it comes to Smash Bros. Or even, like, a Pokemon Nuzlocke. You don't even need required mods for that. It's just choosing to play it in a different way. Even though that's such, like, a large community that runs that version of the game or runs the game that way. For whatever reason, they're very protective of that.
Reminds me of, I'm pretty sure when Nintendo Minute, I think they were considering doing a Nuzlocke of one of the games, one of the new Pokemon games, and I think they got told from the higher ups they weren't allowed to do that, like they're not supposed to do that or anything, which has always been interesting to me. I think for what it's worth, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually was an exploit, because the way I understand it is that whenever you're in a lobby, you're given a choice of one of 3 tracks, and then a random selection, and then it kind of does the Mario Kart 8 style, just I guess like scrolling between them to pick out which course gets selected. But the interesting thing about obviously this one is that, yeah, whatever if you select one of them and that gets picked, at least not the random thing, it would be you driving from the course you currently just raced in to the next course. But if it was random, you just play the 3-lap version of the course. And I guess it was just an oversight. It seems like a pretty big oversight, all things considered. But eventually people caught on to the fact that, oh, if I want to play 3 laps, I just pick random, and I'll get a 3-lap of something. And I'd rather do that than whatever course of my choice.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why they picked it. I think a lot of people might be a little alarmist about it, in the sense that I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo tries to create an alternate mode. I mean, I know that they're pretty adamant about certain things. I think this is a thing they'll probably be willing to budge on, in the sense of, okay, there's like an intermission mode and then just a like 3-lap mode. I think the funniest comparison I can think of is the like for fun and for glory in Smash 4.
Yeah.
I think there's a decent chance they'd be willing to do that, but it still might be a couple weeks away and stuff like that.
Yeah, the more I learn about it, well, first of all, I don't know if you're the same, but I first learned of this exploit when the update came out. Like, I didn't even know that. I didn't even hear about it prior to then.
I'd heard about it before.
Yeah.
Basically, people like saying like, "Wow, Mario Kart 8 is so shit." I mean, I'm using kind of a dumb voice. I don't mean to do that. Like, people are saying like, "Oh well," like it speaks a lot that a lot of lobbies people would rather play a 3-lap race of anything than pick a course or whatever.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that, it's kind of like snarky or whatever. But I think it is interesting that for a lot of people, they'd rather just play 3 laps of something than, one of the intermissions. And it's interesting because I feel like on some level I get why people don't like the intermissions, but on the other hand, there's a lot I do like about them. I think people kind of overstated how mechanically uninteresting they are. I think that's kind of absurd.
Yeah.
Like, they definitely have like challenges and obstacles and things going on. I think it's more so they're just not as thematically interesting as, say, Thwomp Fortress or the DK Space Fort. Not Thwomp Fortress, Airship Fortress.
I kind of feel I was gonna say I kind of feel the opposite. That like if the argument is that like there's no real like thematic cohesion in the in-between, they need to be generic. I kind of disagree because I don't like that for some of the cups. To keep them consistent, like there needs to be a realistic way for you to drive to what, like they need to be climately, in the same area. So like, this is like this. It's like Mario. It's like, this is the sand area and this is the ice area. And maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe other Mario Kart cups have been like that, but I don't think so. And ultimately, if they just rearranged the cups, it wouldn't I probably wouldn't have noticed. And that's the other thing, is that I feel like I don't have a dog in this fight specifically because it doesn't affect me. Like, if you're asking me, I'm just hypothetically, I don't really care about the intermissions. Like, they don't feel like not Mario Kart to me, and I wouldn't be upset. I was like, oh man, I don't want to do these intermissions. I have to do the 3-track version. I don't care. I don't mind the intermissions. That was something we talked about before the game came out, where when we were just like, not grasping at straws, but overanalyzing and questioning how enjoyable those intermissions would be, that when it's in your hands and you're playing it for long periods of time, it doesn't even really matter. Like, you don't even really notice it. But it was, to my understanding, a feature that Nintendo removed. But now I'm hearing that it was an exploit that they removed, which isn't good, but there's a possibility that they weren't even being malicious in doing this. They just like, there's a bug in our game, let's fix it. But again, like, although it doesn't affect me, I'm not going to be like, why is everyone complaining? Because it's something that was in a game that was taken out. If people were complaining now saying like, oh man, remove the intermissions, I'd be like, whatever, dude, just play the game. But the fact that it was in the game and then it was removed, that I can see why people are upset about it.
I think it was, I guess once again, I'm surprised that they would have made that mistake, because I feel like these games are pretty rigorously tested. But if it was an exploit, if that's really the claim, then I guess I kind of get it. But I mean, the exploit was kind of being used by fans for what they thought was a more enjoyable experience. And I think the right thing for Nintendo to learn from that is that, okay, maybe we should, because I mean, at least in versus mode, and I assume in friend lobbies, I haven't checked, you can pick whether you want to race. I mean, it's actually interesting because, like, whenever you select a course in versus mode, you can select just a 3-lap race of that course and basically all the drives from that course to another course, which is kind of cool, all things considered. But I don't fault people for not being that into it, because I think there is something I like about a simple 3-lap course, as opposed to the sometimes not necessarily like overcomplicated, but just I don't know. That's one thing I didn't, that wasn't immediately as appealing to me with some of the later Mario Kart 8 tracks, along with the DLC ones, where like a lot of these courses had sections and they were constantly changing between the laps. Like, that wasn't a really big thing for me. In some ways, I don't know if it made it a little bit, less fun to learn to play on. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me kind of being hit with a difficulty curve that I don't want to deal with. But
what's weird is that I think the cup I struggled with the most was the first one, at least when it came to coming in first.
Oh, really?
On my side account, that like the one I don't use to stream, that I can, because I do want to play the. What happened was I was like, this time around I actually want to, whenever I have free time, play the game instead of just waiting to stream every time I want to play it. And for that first week, it was like that, but then I realized that I don't really have a lot of free time, and the time I have to play is when I'm streaming. Also, maybe this is an embarrassment to admit, or maybe I just need to get used to it. But I think that, and this isn't a complaint because it's just something I do think I need to get used to it. But I'm not used to the size of the Switch 2. So the way I hold it and like play like really wears on the balls of my thumb, like the joint down by my hand. And I was like playing it in between editing and writing sessions. So I was never not using my hands. And then I was just like, I don't want to do this. And I got tired out. But I've been outside of stream. I mean, I got 18 hours of it overall on stream over the past month. And I've been playing it a lot more on the side account, trying to get the 3 stars and all the cups. I haven't been nearly as lucky in Knockout Tour. And I mean, if we're levying notes or the way we feel about the game, it wouldn't matter either way because playing battle mode by yourself isn't fun. But I feel like it's been a long while since there's been a balloon battle mode in a Mario Kart game that I thought was really fun, as opposed to like a side game. And I think that's why I've been saying recently that, like, oh, Mario Kart World is like my Smash Ultimate. Like, I've always played the series, but this is the one that I'm starting to play a lot more and understand the mechanics and actually want to play. And I was wondering why, when it came to racing and all the previous games, I just never developed those skills or even learned how to accelerate properly. And I was like, oh, okay, I was probably just a kid throughout all of them, and I was a kid throughout most of those games. But I think, now that I'm remembering, most of the time I had in all of the Mario Kart games leading up, I mean, not to this one, but to, I suppose, Mario Kart 7, because that's when they stopped doing traditional balloon battle stages, was playing balloon mode. All the fun I had with my friends playing online or playing at home were the specific balloon battle stages. And I know what they're going for, right? They have an open world, so they're like, oh, we could just drop them in the middle of this open world, and then they could have a balloon battle. And there are small sections around the open world that aren't not unavailable during the races, but there's really no way that you would want to access them in the races, and Lakitu will bring you back to the course if you're off it for long enough. But in the open world, there's these little racing sections that you just hit the P switch and you do it. And they're modeled after, I think, the Super Nintendo Super Mario Kart races, the other ones that are more simplistic and flat and blocky. Instead of making those or remaking them and putting them in cups, they just have them kind of hidden around the map. And I feel like the map is so big and has a bunch of open space that they could have had like specific dedicated balloon battle stages in it.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
This was a complaint that came up with Mario Kart 8. And then in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, in the carryover to the Switch, they added more traditional balloon battle modes. So if you guys don't know, balloon battle in Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U, there were no new courses. They would just drop you on the racetrack for specific courses that are already in the race cups. And it would be balloon battle rules where you attack people and steal their balloons and try and get the most points. But it would just be on a traditional track. And then 8 Deluxe added...
hated it.
Yeah, I hate it. And then for 8 Deluxe, they added some traditional stages, but they still weren't super fun. Like, all of my favorite balloon battle stages, whenever I'm thinking about them, I think about N64 or Double Dash or Wii or DS. And I didn't even really play Double Dash that much.
I love the, like, block tower ones. Those are cool.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be really easy to put them around the map. I don't think they're going to change the map at all. I do think that this is a game that's probably going to get regular updates. Not to the degree of, like, Mario Tennis Aces or something like that. But I think that's more of the design philosophy Nintendo's going for all their games moving forward. Maybe for the Switch too. Is that all their major games, they're going to release them. It's going to have that big release window, celebrated all this huge game. And then maybe every couple months they'll like add something to them. Because they've been doing that with a lot of their games. Even if they aren't adding something, they'll host like, oh, there's a specific raid in Scarlet and Violet that you could still do. And it's been like 3 years. Or even in Smash Bros, like, they're still hosting, like, Smash events on rotation that you could play online to this day. And I think that's what they want. They want people to have an excuse to keep going back. Sort of like Animal Crossing, like, oh, man, I got to check in today, do my dailies or whatever. So I do think, maybe not to that degree, but I do think Mario Kart World is going to be a game that with each subsequent major Nintendo release, I mean, we said when we were talking about Donkey Kong Bonanza that some people believe that maybe the lack of costumes on DK and Pauline are because they're going to get additional costumes that are going to tie in to Donkey Kong Bonanza. I don't know how sold I am on that idea, like it being true, but I do see this being a game they support throughout the console's lifetime for a long time, because assuming that the console even does, like, okay, that's another 7 or 8 years. So, if we don't like Mario Kart World, we're not going to get another Mario Kart for another 7 or 8 years. Maybe less if it really flops, but I think it already hasn't. I saw.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the early Switch 2 sales figures are like immense. Like,
yeah, at worst it'll just be like the Wii, where it sells a lot early on and then dips. But even that, like, nobody views the Wii as a failure.
Yeah. So, like, in that sense, I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. I will say, though, I wouldn't. For some reason, I have a gut feeling that this game won't be very supported, but I could just be being pessimistic. I say two sentences after I say I was optimistic.
Right.
I guess one thing I'll say is that I kind of like the idea of there being some DLC for this game. I like the idea of a Donkey Kong Pauline extra outfits, even if it means. I don't even necessarily mind if that means that they kind of withheld them a month because of they wanted to wait for Bonanza.
Mm-hmm.
I guess because, like, nowadays people really expect that kind of stuff from games, just kind of like a little bit extra added on over the next year.
That never really bothered me with the Mario sports games on the Switch. Like, I do think they were lackluster, but I also think, if we're being real, that a lot of the praise for the other Mario sports games is nostalgia. I think that's probably fair to say, because I didn't grow up with any of them, and I still see people to this day saying that Toadstool Tour and Tennis for the GameCube, anything for the GameCube, really, that's when it was peak or whatever. And we haven't had a modern Mario Sluggers game, so we don't have anything to compare it to. But all the other games, your Strikers Battle League, your Golf Super Rush, your Tennis Aces, I don't think they were, like, fantastic games, nor would they hold a lot of my attention, but they're Mario sports games. Like, I didn't really think they were going to, and I think I let people hype those series up to me. I don't know if you remember, but when Mario Tennis Aces came out, everyone was making videos about it, like, whoa, this tennis game has, like, an RPG storyline, it's crazy. And then you play and it's like, yeah, it's tennis. Like, it's not bad, but I don't know what people expected. I think they expect to be kids again playing these games. But the complaints that were levied at something like Strikers Battle League, their football game, is that the game did not launch with Diddy and Daisy and two other characters I don't remember. And the major overarching theme or discussion there was that either the game was rushed and they had characters in development that weren't finished until those updates, or they purposefully withheld them. And there's a lot of animosity for that, and I understand it. Like, when you buy your game, you're spending money for your game, you want the entire game to be there. But I could understand it more if it was paid DLC. But it isn't. They're just free updates to add the characters later. And that's just kind of the way games are now. And honestly, they've been like that for a while. I remember I was talking about... I think... Were we talking about Fallout? Or I was talking about Fallout with somebody upstairs at some point.
I don't think it was Fallout.
Was hyping up... Or, not hyping up, but discussing New Vegas and comparing it to how buggy the other Fallout games are. And I'm like, I don't know if you guys remember, but when New Vegas launched, it was famously broken, and they had to release a bunch of patches for it. Yeah, maybe. But that's not even a recent example. Like, that was a decent ways away. And I'm not defending it, but I'm saying, like, that's the way games are now. You can... And I think that it's not necessarily a negative thing. I do think that there's a lot of companies that release their games unfinished. And I also think there's a lot of companies that purposefully withhold characters, skins, modes, or whatever to make them DLC. Like when Smash Ultimate came out, the future updates like the stage builder and the special arena settings, those were meant... Oh, and home run contest. Those were meant to be in base game. They just didn't get them on in time. So as long as it's... But when it comes to costumes for characters... I can't imagine that was like, oh man, we just didn't have enough time. No, I think if that is the case, I'm not even like super convinced that is the case because we haven't seen it yet. Maybe I'll be proven wrong or they'll be proven right. It's kind of the same thing that they're purposefully holding them at. But either way, as long as the updates are free, I don't really care. And I don't think that artificially elongating a game is necessarily a bad thing because every time they added characters to Mario Strikers Battle League, then I would stream the game again and with the new characters, and it gave me an excuse to go back to Mario Strikers Battle League. You know, if they didn't add those characters, I probably would have played the game the week it came out and then never again, because there's so many other party games to play on the Switch. I do think that a lot of the appeal of these sports games made by Nintendo are playing them on a couch with your friends, and I feel like you could play Nintendo Switch Sports online, but it really isn't the same thing, the same experience. And I do think that's
Wii Sports with online randos. Yeah, that's a fun way to spend
such a
big
afternoon. Part of it is just being in that room. And I did do the single player for a lot of these games. What I'm saying ultimately is that I don't think artificially giving people an excuse to go back to these games with updates is necessarily a bad thing. I actually kind of like it. I like when there's a game I haven't played in a long while, and then they update it. Like recently, or it's going to happen when I come back, my first stream back. Well, there's going to be a stream on the 4th of July, because I do that stream every year. It's a tradition at this point. But then I'm going to leave for a little vacay. And then when I come back, I'm going to be playing the new Astrobot levels. Astrobot's a perfect example. Like that, I don't feel like I wasted any money. I even bought a PS5 for that game, and it's a fully fledged, fully formed game. And then they just added levels for free afterwards. I love when games do that. That way, I mean, if you really don't want to, you don't have to buy additional games. I kind of like that major companies leave a sort of skeleton crew to work on updates or view over online matches to see what's going wrong, whether it be patch notes or even like minor updates that add additional content. What I'm saying is that I don't mind it.
Yeah. Actually, you know, this whole discourse reminds me because, you know, honestly, this whole thing has been going on, I think, a lot longer than certain people realize. Because Nintendo only really kind of started doing it in 2014. But in the realm of, like, PC games, especially PC strategy games, this goes back a good 10, debatably 15 years earlier. And it's funny because Civ 7 recently, well, came out 4 months ago. I still haven't gotten it. Mostly because, you know, frankly, Firaxis is kind of a shitty company. I really don't want to give them money.
They do.
I don't know. I mean, they just cheapen stuff out. They force you to kind of sign up for these for this a lot of like telemetry
their
bullshit,
subscription
you know,
program.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be worse, but you know, Civ has been doing that since I think Civ 4, if not Civ 3, and so many of these games, they would come out, and then a year later, you'd have to go to the store and buy another freaking disc drive or whatever to play the expansion on. And Nintendo got into it pretty late, all things considered. But honestly, I feel, and I remember when they did, a lot of people were skeptical. Like, a lot of people were hard on it. I'm pretty sure you said that you didn't get the DLC characters for Smash 4,
that
right?
DLC was evil.
Yeah.
I was a Wii U guy.
I don't think Nintendo has ever really been that shitty about it. Well, no. I guess you could argue. I mean, some of their expansion passes are really pricey. I mean, I didn't get the Scarlet and Violet DLC because it was like $40, and I'm like,
and if you want to play both versions with it, even if you have both games, you got to buy the DLC twice.
Yeah, that's a little excessive.
Smash Bros. I never had. I mean, I did have a problem with it, but Smash Bros. Was always a good example of all the DLC characters were characters that either couldn't be on the main roster or were planned for the main roster but had to be pushed back. And I don't mind that.
I remember,
that is a paid DLC, though.
A big caveat people brought up with Smash Bros. Was that these characters were made after the game was developed. And the initial game was developed, and that was a big thing people kept bringing up. And I guess that was because, you know, that was a lot of people who felt like they needed to like draw the line between ethical DLC and unethical DLC or whatever. But I guess that's the point. That's the point. I don't really think it's that necessary. That important. I mean, I guess I kind of do. I mean, if you do have something that's already ready to be released and you just hold it back, I struggle to see a point for that. But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, that's how a lot of game companies do it. I guess you know, honestly, what I will say, the silver lining for companies like Firaxis and 2K and you know, especially PC developers when it comes to DLC, is that after a few years you can get the entire game for like with its DLC for dirt cheap. You know what I mean? But Nintendo doesn't budge like that. We finally got Mario Odyssey for like 30% off after 8 years.
Yeah, that's
and,
strange.
It's like, that's not something we get very often, at least with Nintendo. So frankly, I think, I don't know, is someone going to want to play Scarlet and Violet with the DLC in 5 years? I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I guess that is the interesting point when it comes to a lot of these games, especially ones that are specifically dedicated online. I mean, we saw it recently with what they call live service games. I mean, we see it all the time, but it happened with multiverses. And I, as someone who plays GTA Online, I know people have a lot of issues with it about how grindy it is, but I always prefer the option to grind over it being like a mandatory purchase. And Fall Guys have kind of gone in that direction where I loved, and I still love Fall Guys, when it came out in 2020 and I played it nonstop, when it was like a $20 game. And then there were also microtransactions, but you could technically unlock everything if you grinded enough. And the same goes for GTA Online. They added an update recently, and I was like, oh, I'm excited to play it, but you had to buy another property. And I could grind to get that money, but I didn't want to, so I'm just like, I just won't get it. I overall still prefer that as opposed to like multiverses or even now Fall Guys that have specific cosmetics that you can only buy. Like, I don't mind microtransactions. I don't mind like, oh, if I want to skip the line a little bit, I can pay to do so. That's what I did with the shark cards in GTA when I was younger. But I don't love a live service game. But I understand why. Like, if it's free to play already, I much prefer something being like $20, $30 and then there are microtransactions, but you can unlock everything. Like, I think I would have been more okay with multiverses if it was like that, but I know the majority of people wouldn't have played it. But I don't know, maybe they would have. I mean, people bought Rivals. I don't know if people still play that, but...
Marvel Rivals?
No, Rivals of Aether, too. But yeah, Marvel Rivals is another perfect example. I mean, but that one's been doing well, and that one doesn't have paid DLC, does it? They just release characters, but the cosmetics are paid, right?
So. Yeah, pretty sure.
I think there's a world where that's a Smash Bros. We get in the future. Not that it's free to play, but I mean maybe like $70 game. And it launches with a minimal cast. Like maybe like 30 characters. I think I've said this before. And they're all like reduxed original characters because they've all expanded and evolved a lot since the last time they were in Smash Bros. And then every couple months or so they just release a new character for free. That's optimistic. Like Marvel Rivals, like, oh, this new characters come in this update and have sort of a crew working on that game. I don't know how likely that is. I think it might be more of like a battle pass situation or the fighter's pass. But instead of buying individual characters, and maybe they'll allow you to do that, that you just like subscribe or you buy like, or if you have online, you can get them for free. That would be greatly appreciated because that was the case with the Animal Crossing DLC and the Mario Kart DLC, I believe, is if you had the expansion pack, you just get the DLC for free. And I think the final Smash character, Sora, was added right before they started that practice. So I hope it's something more akin to that. I don't foresee, because it's Nintendo, us getting a game where they slowly add, especially Smash Bros, where all the characters control so differently. Like, if you want to add a new character to Mario Kart World, that's you put a model in there and some animations and some voice acting. Smash is an entirely new character. But, and I guess if you're comparing it to other fighting games, those also have paid characters, but I wouldn't be opposed to that. What I'm saying is I wouldn't be opposed to the roster of the next Smash game being a lot smaller. Take years to go from 30 fighters back to 89. Yeah, that's fine. As long as they slowly roll them out. Like, again, like, I'm always going to play Smash Bros, but think about how many people would be playing the game regularly. Like, oh, let's say the game launches and then it's 7 months later. Sure, people will still be playing it. The dedicated people that like Smash Bros. Now imagine 7 months later and they're like, hey, new character coming out for free. Then a lot more people would swarm to the game solely to play that new character, even if it's a rehash of a previous character. I think this is the best way to get redesigns and maybe not reboots, but, look at the characters that are already in Smash and try and reevaluate them a little bit so we can and when they add the characters back, they'll have more individual development time as opposed to, I don't want all of the characters to come back. I mean, obviously, I love Smash Ultimate, but if I want to play Smash Ultimate, I can play it on the Switch. which actually transitioned us back to a lot of people I've been seeing that are starting to turn on Mario Kart World and implying that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is actually the better Mario Kart game. Do you have any take on this?
I don't think so. Well, first of all, I think Mario Kart World has better graphics for whatever that matters. But as they say, graphics don't matter, gameplay does.
It's got more soul.
It's got more soul.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I was playing Mario Kart 8 today, and I was kind of taken aback. It's like everything's a lot less expressive. I think they really nailed certain things down in World that they still kind of struggled with in 8. Obviously, they had more processing power. One thing I'll give 8, though, is that 8 definitely has the better cast of characters.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, because, 8 had 42 characters, though it should be worth noting that, I think, 6 to 8 of them are just, Metal Mario and Pink Gold Peach and stuff like that.
And a lot of them are Koopalings.
Yeah. World has 50, but World doesn't have a lot of very, frankly, in my opinion, worthwhile characters that they should have, like Diddy Kong, like Funky Kong, even Dry Bowser. I kind of wish Dry Bowser was in this game, in some form. And honestly, I mean, I guess I assume the Koopalings just didn't really make enough of a splash. That's one of the big reasons because, I don't know, were the Koopalings ever that cool?
It was fun for that period when, the new Super games were coming out. I think it was... Did they first appear in New Super Mario Bros. Wii? Or first reappear?
It was Wii, yeah.
And I remember
It was Wii.
I was a kid when Wii came out, but then around the 3DS and Wii U era, I was much more online, and I was watching people who, made content about videos or games that they were nostalgic for. And everyone was pointing at the screen and being like, oh my god, it's the guys from Mario 3 and Mario World. And then I think New Super Mario Bros. 2, Reznor was there, the little rhino boss fight where they're on not the merry-go-round, but the Ferris wheel. And then they added the Tanuki suit. There was a big era of 3 and World nostalgia that wasn't there for a while.
Yeah, it reminds me... I remember when I was a kid, I watched the Screw Attack Best Mario games. And you know what number 1 was?
Mario Bros. 3? Mario Bros. World?
Mario Bros. 3. Mario Bros. 3. And that's always surprised me because I've played Mario 3. I wasn't wowed by it. It's still pretty damn good. I don't know if that's just a millennial versus Gen Z thing. But it's funny you bring up the Koopalings thing because the exact same thing happened to me. For a while, I kind of got the impression that people didn't like Bowser Jr. Because, I don't know, he was just a lame replacement for the Koopalings. But then I played Mario World and 3 again, and I'm like, dude, the Koopalings are nothing characters. I'm sorry. I mean, to be fair, most Mario characters aren't that dense, but it reminded me that there really isn't much to them, all things considered. I think most of the identity they have or don't have come from the cartoons, which even then aren't that, I don't think mean that much to people. But, it's funny. It's people were really, really bummed, I guess, about Bowser Jr. replacing these characters that, you hit 3 times at the end of at a castle in Mario World, and then you never see them again. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think people
that's my hot take against the Koopalings.
I think people equate style, like you said, to design. And I think at a certain point the game started having style, but I wouldn't say that. I think anything pre-3D, it's kind of hard to decipher style from certain characters. And all you really see for the Koopalings is that they have cooler designs than Bowser Jr. I'll concede that the Koopalings have much cooler designs, but that's the case with they got cool colored hair and spiky hair. They got different shaped faces. Yeah. You tell me Ludwig doesn't look. You tell me Ludwig looks.
Ludwig's the one exception, but let me search something up real quick.
Sure. Morton plus Roy, but
Morton and Roy look the same, bro. Yeah. What is this? Okay, so they all had fan art that kind of resembles their current design, their main design from Mario Bros. 3, but they look nothing like that in the games. And I don't know. I mean, I guess there is a certain amount of identity that they kind of had developed from like these comics and stuff, because that seems to be where, frankly, the only time you actually saw them in their actual designs. But I don't know, like in the games, for example, like most of them don't look like themselves. To be fair, I mean a lot of that's just because of the limits of sprite work and the color choices they have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Ludwig has like white hair in Mario World for some reason. You know what I mean?
Did you play Mario 3 before the other original Mario games?
No, the first one I played was Mario 1.
Yeah.
But I remember I bought all those games on the same day. Or at the very least, I might have bought Mario 1 one day, and then a couple months later, I bought 2 and 3 on the same day. It was something like that. Because I remember my Wii Virtual Console, I know the games I had, and there might have been a couple that I'm missing. I had Mario 1, Mario 2, Mario 3, Mega Man 2, Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars.
Nice.
Woohoo. Yeah, woohoo. Final Fantasy 1. And there might be a couple others that I'm missing. And I remember playing those games. I love them. They mean a lot to me. Though I usually would rather just play the Mario All Stars version. Though there might be like things about that are worse. I don't know. I just like the graphics. Not. Well, there might be like some fun little like mechanics that weren't exactly translated perfectly, but yeah.
I mean, it goes from the NES to the Super Nintendo. That's what I wanted to say, is I had 1 on the 3DS and 3 on the Wii, but I didn't really understand 3, and then I went back to it. And it did not, like, wow me in the sense, like, oh my god, this is the best 2D Mario game. But playing 1 and 3, they feel like they released on entirely different consoles.
Oh, yeah,
It feels like the jump from Zelda to Link's Awakening. Or Link to the Past, no, absolutely. My mistake.
Absolutely, you're completely right. And I think that actually goes to show, how quickly Mario grew and adapted, and, how quickly technology was moving back then. Because I'm pretty sure 3 came out in, like, 1989. Let me double check that.
Yeah, I mean, if you play the new Super games...
Nope, 1988. Holy shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you think about that, and it's really nuts. I mean, there's more enemies, there's way more levels. There's more features.
Which is the format of the game too, like the stage selection, like everything you know about 2D Mario. Oh, the stage selection where it's that little map overworld, and then you go from circle to circle, and you can hit the select button to have your items in reserve, and there's the warp whistle, and you can go to the Toad houses to get items. Like everything we know to be conventions of 2D Mario, they all come from 3.
Yeah, the only thing I think. Well, I mean, actually, I don't like say something that's probably not true, but I was gonna say I think basically the entire blueprint for 2D Mario what came out in 3, and it's pretty respectable for that. I think I prefer World. I think World is probably my favorite 2D Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Though it's not like I've really ever played them all intensely with under like a lot of scrutiny. I assume if I did, I'd probably pick what's the word, World.
Yeah.
But they're all great. Except New Super Mario Bros. 2 or whatever. Actually, I'm curious. This reminds
3DS.
me. What did you think of Wonder?
I really liked it.
Yeah, it's weird because that game, like, I haven't heard people talk about it that much.
No, which is I think it's because it was 2023, right? So it was the same year as like Tears of the Kingdom. I think also Pikmin 4. That was a crazy year in retrospect. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, I think it's because it's not that it's not difficult, because there were challenges to it, but it's not that long of a game. And I think we've been a little spoiled, maybe, with the likes of Mario Maker, that people would rather just play that anyway. I don't think they're... I mean, they're obviously still gonna make 2D Mario games, but the Switch was very overrun with them. I really don't know. Yeah, because I'm realizing too that and I saw a post that said that it had no motion or whatever. It's the same thing when people talk about the Avatar movie. The Avatar movie, where they're like, "What's the cultural impact of this movie?" And I agree that Avatar is a strange movie to build a franchise off of because it's just kind of okay. But I don't think measuring pieces of art by their cultural effect is necessarily the right way to go about things, because like the Minecraft movie had probably the biggest cultural effect this year. It doesn't mean it's the best movie or even like worth remembering.
My parents asked me to watch if I wanted to watch it with them the other day, and I'm like,
I can't think of a worse thing to do. Yeah, you should put them on to some avant-garde cinema.
It's like, hey guys, have you heard of Eraserhead? They probably
My little cousin comes up to me and he says, "Let's watch the Minecraft movie." And I said, "That's cringe. Let me put you on to some heavier shit." He puts on Teen Titans Go on the TV. I say, "Oh, didn't you hear? This show's bad. The reviewer said so."
You ever heard Samurai Jack? I gotta show you this Mr. Enter video.
Dude, I've been watching Samurai Jack, and I gotta choose my words carefully. It's not for me. It's not my thing. It doesn't quite fit the kind of shows I'm into. Because it's very like, it's an action cartoon, obviously, but there's other action cartoons I like. I didn't like action cartoons a lot when I was a kid.
Dude, me neither, dude. I thought action was fucking lame. I thought it was for boneheads, dude. Straight up.
Yeah, like... for Neanderthals. Because I'm a very dialogue-centric person. And there's shows like My Adventures with Superman, or... I'm sure there's other examples. I guess you could count, like, Steven Universe maybe as, like, an action show. Stuff that has action elements and fights I like, and choreography. But for me, like, the characters are the most important thing. And a lot of these action shows, even, like, Teen Titans, which I did really like as a kid, I feel like some of it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah. There's nothing really exhilarating to me about most action. And as a kid, as I said, like honestly, I was kind of... I don't know if I was made fun of, but like I remember seeing, you know, my cousins, they seem to like shows like Ben 10 and Avatar even, I'll say. And it's funny because Avatar is now probably like my favorite show ever, but as a kid, I kind of looked at it like, no, I didn't watch it until I was 12.
I didn't watch it till 2020.
Wow. But yeah, no, and I think like I don't know, I just saw a lot of those action shows, the way they were advertised. I'm like, I don't want to watch that. That looks stupid. It looks boring. I don't know. It's like something about the power fantasy of being a superhero or being kind of like a fighter or whatever was just lame to me as a kid. I don't know. Or at the very least, I kind of like got bored of it really fast. I know I liked Power Rangers when I was like 4. And then like that was lame to me by the time I was like 5.
I remember in the 2010s, it seemed like there was an epidemic. I mean, everyone I would watch that would talk about cartoons would talk about like how few action cartoons there are and how there's no more action cartoons. And I would just kind
of... I was like dabbing on that grave, bro. I was peeing on it, dude.
I would get
like,
sniffing.
I'm like talking shit that I don't even mean.
I would get caught up in it because, you know, it was a creator I like. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's bring these. But like that happened a lot. I would just parrot opinions that I didn't actually have or believe just because someone I watched said it. And I didn't watch any of these cartoons, so I just had to take their word for it that it was like the best. And then I would like big up and hype cartoons to my friends that I had never watched.
Dude, I was like that. I was like that because of Mr. Enter. Yeah. I remember telling people like,
let's put on Dave the Barbarian.
Samurai Jack, dude. I actually I've only watched one episode of Samurai Jack, and I don't remember what I thought of it. It's probably a good, decent show.
It's not bad. It's just not for me. Like, it's not... I can understand why people cared so much is because it was one of those few shows that was semi-serialized, and then it didn't get an ending, and then it did get an ending, and that ending was pretty underwhelming to a lot of people who watch Samurai Jack. I think I haven't gotten to that part of the series yet. Maybe the Adult Swim season is like really, really good, but so far it's not even bad. I just, you know, it's not the kind of cartoon I would like or watch specifically as a kid. I just preferred to laugh. I wanted to watch comedies a lot.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I remember there was a point in time in middle school where I wasn't doing the thing like where you like watch TV like just kind of casually without really thinking about what you're going to watch. I kind of stopped doing that. But I had kind of gotten into TV reviewers and stuff like that. So I tried getting into a few shows that I think kind of just like eluded me. Like I didn't really get it.
That's how I feel about 30 Rock.
Yeah, oh, really? But I think one example is I think I tried to watch a couple episodes of Courage the Cowardly Dog on Netflix, and I guess, you know, as an 11-year-old kid, I couldn't get into it.
I think there's some cartoons more now that are just not meant to be binged. I think you do just need to like catch them on TV. It's a shame they canceled Checkered Past.
Because it's like, I imagine, I mean, are you really supposed to like, oh, I want to get into Courage the Cowardly Dog, I guess I just have to watch season 1, episode 1. Like, I think if I just caught it on the fucking air, I probably would like the show a lot more. Yeah. And to be fair, it's not like I dislike the show. I haven't seen an episode in a long time. I never saw a full episode as a kid. I feel the same way about Ed, Edd n Eddy. You know, frankly, I probably would love that show, but, you know, I always discarded it as, like, some dumb just like a dumb show for like stupid kids or
Kid
whatever.
Slop.
I don't know. Did I straight up had like a superiority complex as
what
a child?
What did you
like,
watch as a kid?
Phineas and Ferb. That was like my main
and you
show.
were like, this is
fun. Yeah,
the thinking man's cartoon.
I think, no, straight up. And honestly, I think one of the big reasons, like I really liked watching that show specifically. Well, one is that it is pretty dialogue oriented. It's not. It doesn't feel like, I don't know, just kind of lowbrow or whatever. But my mom loved that show. Oh my gosh, like that was like one of the best ways I communicated with my mom, is just kind of seeing how much she loved Phineas and Ferb and how happy it would make me. Like I felt like there was something special about it. That's probably why I still look at it so fondly, along with the fact that I think it's just there's a lot of cool things about that show.
Yeah.
I also like SpongeBob, but even as a kid, I recognized like I was like from the point I was maybe like 8, I recognized that there were episodes that I really liked and episodes that I didn't like that much. That just
did you understand the classic and modern split when you were that young?
I think I did when I was 9. Like, okay. I think I read something about how like after the movie, the like it got really bad. And honestly, maybe I just inherited that opinion, but like I don't know. Especially when you grew up around that time, this was like the era of like the Splinter, SpongeBob, You're Fired, stuff like that. And frankly, I think those like there are a lot of really bad episodes from that era. Or at least I talk about it. Actually, I'm going to talk about it in my Pocateo Island video, and I think I've talked about it in other videos. Is that around this time, I think there was a big reaction against like weird, kind of vulgar, maybe not vulgar, very I don't know. You think about that Squidward toenail scene?
Yeah. I'm thinking about it.
And how
editor like flashed on screen.
Like yeah. Let's all look like who
slow motion. Thank you.
Like why? First of all, I mean, I'm surprised they would be allowed to show that on a kids channel. I guess like I don't know. I mean, I imagine if you
blood.
Like, made a video.
It's actually blood. They're showing this to kids.
A video on YouTube of you ripping your like fingernail off. Sorry, I'm kind of like getting like phantom pain thinking about it. Like I assume that'd be like restricted. And I guess it's a cartoon, but I don't know. I'm surprised like they ever thought that was. I don't even want to say thought that was okay, because I don't really like to talk in that overtly moral language. But yeah. I'm surprised they thought that was a thing that people would like. Maybe kids do like it. I certainly didn't. And I don't know. I guess I just remember it as a kid. There were a lot of episodes that just felt very oversimplified and a little bit like dull. I don't know. And they were all like newer episodes of the show.
Yeah, I think ultimately, and I've had this discussion on other streams before, where when it comes to certain content creators, that it seems now that you, not that you can't, but it seems the way a lot of people are talking, that they believe that they can only dislike someone for moral reasons. Like if there's someone you find annoying, you have to hope and pray every night that they're secretly a bad person, so that you could be like, yeah, I don't like this person because they're bad. You could just not like that person.
There's something really deranged when you hear people say like, "Oh man, I'm so glad I found out this guy's a pedophile."
Yeah, you're glad that happened.
I forgot. I forgot. I think it was Anthony Fantano. I saw someone say in a comment section, "God, I hope he gets like outed for like abusing a child."
Yeah.
And I kind of responded. I said like, when you hate someone so much, you hope a child gets abused just so you can hate them more.
It's insane.
Like,
and I don't.
I think you're like. Oh, that's not a healthy mindset. That's
no,
kind
you don't need a moral reason to dislike someone. Someone can just be annoying. And I feel like a lot of that came through in certain. It seems like we're talking about one specific person, but
it wasn't just Mr. Enter.
No,
I think it was
but there were a lot. There were a lot of people who were like watch those reviews and then like, oh, I'm gonna be the angry reviewer. That.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Their reason for disliking comedy cartoon. Because, it's really hard to make a review and just say, yeah, it's not funny if something isn't funny.
Yeah.
It's even harder to say, like, oh, this is funny without actually just showing clips. But because of that, a lot of them had to take a moral stance that it's not just that it's unfunny or not for me. It's that this is evil and hateful and it's teaching kids the wrong lessons. As if SpongeBob ever cared about that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I remember there was an episode, I think it was The Ringer, which all things considered is kind of a shitty episode.
It's just not funny. You could say that about all these episodes. Like, it doesn't need to be disgusting or hateful. They're just not funny, and it's a comedy cartoon.
Yeah. And I guess one thing, I'll say two things to that. I think first of all, I do remember it might have not been Mr. Enter. Maybe we're being too hard on him. There was someone that like reviewed that. I would be down for that.
Yeah, I want to talk to him.
But there was someone who reviewed The Ringer, and I think it ends with SpongeBob saying, I guess crying does solve your problems after, which honestly I think is kind of funny. I'll admit it.
Dude, there's a bit in I think the live action Cat in the Hat movie which I'm sure you've seen, where
I actually haven't.
Oh wow, where they're like sledding.
Dude, I saw that as a kid. I thought, I don't want to watch that shit.
Dude, I love that movie as a kid. But nostalgia aside, there's a bit in that movie when they're like sliding down a woman or whatever, and it's like this giant like log flume ride, and it's full of purple slime. And they're like, whoa, it's like a roller coaster ride. And then the Cat in the Hat says like, yeah, it's just like those fabulous rides available at Universal Studios. And then he turns to the camera and says cha-ching, and it makes that sound effect. And I remember like saw people talk about this like, oh, look how much they're selling out. Look how awful. And
dude, that's hilarious.
And that's a good bit. I think it's a funny bit. And everyone tried to convince me it was bad. It is a bad movie, don't get me wrong, but I like it. I think I prefer movies to be weird and bad than, like, boring and bad. It's like a horseshoe.
It's actually interesting you bring that up because it reminds me of... Well, first of all, actually, I think as a kid, like, of all the episodes from, like, the House Fancy era, I kind of liked House Fancy except for the freaking toenail bit.
Yeah.
I think I just found the concept of the episode, like, kind of fun. But... where was I going with that? I can kind of get, like, I think certain people are maybe, I don't want to say overly sensitive, but I guess the best thing I can come up with is overly sensitive, where they do take certain elements from TV shows very personally, or they find certain things that I think like I would discard as, like, plain, just kind of over the top fun, as like things that make them really uncomfortable. I think the number one example for me is Sierra from Total Drama. Like, I love Sierra. I love everything about Sierra, but she's definitely like, there are people that have told me that she as a character makes them uncomfortable. Like, it's an uncomfortable thing for them to watch, and they don't like World Tour because of it.
It's such a slapsticky show.
I
think there's a certain like dissonance there.
Yeah, it's never been a problem for me, despite the fact that like what she's doing to Cody is obviously like deranged and evil. I think for me, and to be fair, there were things in that show that kind of made my stomach churn a little bit as a kid. I think Ezekiel Gollum is the best example, along with frankly the Scott in the chair and Dakota as the monster and stuff.
The Dakotazoid.
That I kind of am sympathetic to that, to like not really liking some of the more off-kilter humor in the show, but that comes with like I think like there is an element of it that is just personal, and I would never dare imply that someone is morally in the wrong for like writing something like that in. I think for me the big thing is impermanence, because at the end of the day, like all the terrible things that happen to Cody, like he's fine in the end. As opposed to like the implication that I guess Ezekiel is just destroyed forever. It's actually funny. I remember when Revenge of the Island came out, I thought like that was it for Scott. Like he was gonna be in that forever. And then I was kind of relieved when he just came back like a normal person. Like that changed my opinion of the end of Revenge of the Island quite a bit. It's funny, they kept Lightning's white hair though, which I found
the Ezekiel and Dakota ones are just like malicious. They're like, yeah, whatever. But everything else is, I believe, them having the huge moment in season 1 where Heather not only gets defeated, but also she loses her hair, like a massive dethroning, and feel the need to every season up that a little bit, especially with season 2, where you could argue Courtney's like the villain sort of this, at least the second half of that season, and she sort of just unceremoniously gets voted off on accident. Which happens a lot that season.
They're really unsure, because you see Duncan, he's kind of snoring, and then he clicks, and I think it's implied, at least what you're led to believe, is that he's voting for someone accidentally. But then he says in the confessional, like, oh, Courtney's popularity's in the toilet or whatever, and it's like...
Well, he was saying that, like, getting on my case, basically. But then after that, every major, like, villain dethronement had to be this epic moment where Alejandro gets burned by the volcano and Scott gets chewed up by Fang and probably something else I'm not remembering.
I guess Mal gets deleted from existence.
They kill him. He's dead.
But I think, frankly, like, after Pacateo... Well, Pacateo, I mean, I guess the argument is that Sugar is the villain, but yeah, she doesn't really get that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's not like she's, like, a super serious villain anyway.
Yeah.
And then the Ice Dancers, like, they don't really have, like, anything super crazy. I think I'm glad they kind of nipped that habit, because that was, like, a really annoying thing. They just, like, really leaned on way more than they should have. But, I
don't mind it. I mean, would the term jumping the shark, right? What people fail to realize is the shark jump itself is not low quality. The fact of the matter is that the shark jump, in referring to the episode of Happy Days, where the Fonz jumps over a shark on his jet ski, that after that point, they couldn't really match that, right? They went so high, and then everything else after that was trying to match that, but couldn't. And I think World Tour and Revenge of the Island are sort of the equivalent of that, where I view those as the best seasons. I think that Revenge of the Island is the best objective in a bubble season, and then World Tour is my favorite. Because honestly, we could talk about objectiveness and whatever season has the best episodes, but when it really comes down to it, whatever you view as the best season is probably just the season that primarily showcases your favorite characters. Like, even when I watched Island, my favorites were Noah, Cody, and Heather, so of course I was gonna like World Tour. But if you're like a Bridget or Harold or Lashana fan and you watch World Tour, you're probably not gonna care for it much.
Yeah. I think World Tour was where I think the show really hit, like, a good rhythm for how its challenges are done, for how its dialogue is done. I also think that there was something that changed in the way they wrote dialogue after World Tour. I don't know what it was, but I find the Revenge dialogue to be a lot less biting, a lot less witty. What's the word? Like, noticeably so, that even as a kid, I was kind of bothered by it. But I think Revenge is still a pretty good season. It's funny, I rewatched Action recently. And
I did too. Like, I did it a couple months back.
Yeah, I did it like last weekend. And, you know, one thing I'll say about that season, I think it has some of the best, you know, character challenge writing. And what I mean by that is I think that, you know, especially towards maybe the final 10 episodes, before Lindsay Lindsay and Harold get kind of eliminated, like the challenges go by so fast because they're so fun to watch. Like, I think that, you know, like Duncan, Courtney, Harold, Lindsay, like, there's pretty much all of them do something interesting and characteristically fun during the challenge.
I've always said that, although I don't really
does really well.
Although I don't really like that season, the run of episodes from the merge to my cutoff is when Owen shows up. That's when I lose interest. Shows up again.
I still love Rock and Roll.
I guess. I mean, it's a fun challenge. I think bringing back Owen is fine in any other season, but that's the third time someone has, like, joined in the middle of the game that season, and it's a little too much. But no, that stretch of episodes, Dial M for Merger, the Princess Pride, Super Herald, my favorite episode of that season, and of most, honestly, I always like the Halloween themed episodes, like the ones that kind of came out around that time in the West. So the Hook, Line, and Screamer in the first season, and I think the horror movie challenge wasn't October, but the Clue, the one where they're solving a mystery on a train, that's like my favorite episode. And then obviously when they go to London in season 3, I really like those ones. But there's a lot of, and moving away from Total Drama a little bit, back to not back to Mario Kart, but, you know, we'll make our way back there. The idea that someone is malicious for putting something that is potentially disturbing in a cartoon, and I feel like we're still seeing a lot of that. And I understand the concern because of how many people in the animation industry, and even just, like, working in children's media, turned out to be creeps. But I think a lot of that, and that's why I really dislike that Quiet on Set Nickelodeon documentary, half of it is legitimate accounts of abuse and crossing boundaries among the cast and writers and everyone who is there. And then half of it is look at this nose guy. Doesn't the nose kind of look like a penis? Like this is subliminally. And then I think did we talk about it on one of these pods, or maybe I was in a call or something, where there was like this dumb theory that's like, oh, the reason Nickelodeon slime is green is so they can green screen it out and make it look like cum. And then they could get all these videos of them shooting it at children and be like, oh, then they're getting off on it. And that doesn't make any sense because, one, it's something that's moving with a different viscosity, so it's been really hard to green screen. And also, it doesn't have to be green for you to chroma key it out. The slime could be any color. And also, the slime doesn't originate from Nickelodeon. It started with a different show that was from Canada. But there's a lot of that when it comes to...
Yeah, no, there was some goofy shit. I remember my friends at work, or it might not have been work. Someone was telling me that they saw the documentary and it said something about like the shape of the islands or like the Epstein Island or something like that. Yeah. And how that had to do with Nickelodeon. And it's like, I think we're losing the plot here, or at the very least, like, I mean, I definitely agree that Jeffrey Epstein was,
Well, hold on. We might want to get him on the show someday, so try not to say anything too bad. Yeah, that's a good point.
The blackmail
swung that like adult jokes and cartoons were like cool and fun, and people would be like, oh, top 10 dirtiest moments and top 11 dirtiest moments in Animaniacs. And now you have like conspiracy theorists, YouTubers, or TikTokers that are using the SpongeBob doubloons clip to be like, they're trying to indoctrinate children. It's like, come on, man. It's just a joke.
What's the doubloons clip?
It's the episode where he's trying to give Gary a bath, and he holds up. He's like, oh, it's not a bath, it's a pirate ship or a pirate's treasure. And he holds up a bar of soap, and he says, ooh, doubloons, don't drop them. Like a don't drop the soap joke.
Oh, yeah.
Which, is a questionable joke, but it's not, they're not doing this to like, oh, they're trying to get your children.
I've seen people really clutch their pearls about don't drop the soap joke specifically. Where if you're if you're like 2 degrees of separation from a joke that is kind of related to prison rape, it's like I feel like calling that overtly a sexual assault joke is a little bit dishonest, but I can get why. It does seem like the term dropping the soap is something that's treated with a certain amount of levity.
I mean, that's a good adult joke in a kid's cartoon, is something that you have deniability, that you could be like, oh no, this means like something else.
You know what I loved though? I saw a clip of it. I forget what season it's from, but I'm pretty sure I saw it as a kid. It's the episode of like Amazing World of Gumball where Nicole is at a store and she's trying to ask for the manager, but the manager's like a child, and then like the owner is like a baby, and then like the owners, then like I guess like the company CEO or whatever, is like literally just like a bunch of sperm in a guy's dick or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like I thought that was pretty clever. And that's not going to be a thing kids are going to understand, so it's not really that egregious to me.
But in the modern day equivalent is like, there's a lot of gross out stuff that kids really like. And if you as an adult don't like it, you think it's juvenile or stupid, that's fine. You could just say you don't like it and it's juvenile. But I have seen this a lot when it comes to whenever there's a cartoon clip of like farts or like smelly feet or whatever, that people immediately go to the realm of being like, this is someone's fetish, and they're trying to like force their fetish onto people. When I think I'm not saying that I find like farts and feet funny all the time. I like to think I have a more refined palate, but sometimes I do. Sometimes it is funny. Nor do I have a fetish for either of them, but I don't think every time a cartoonist puts a fart joke in their cartoon, they're like getting off on it.
Yeah. I think I've never been much for fart humor. I think the most I usually like it is when the joke kind of involves like the low browness of the whole joke. I've always loved Terrence and Phillip in South Park. Like I find that to be like pretty fun commentary on like quote unquote lowbrow shitty humor. Mm-hmm. And like I've always found the whole American Canadian War in the South Park movie to be really funny. On the other hand, like, what was I gonna say? I think even as a kid, like I was a pretty tough sell for that kind of humor. Like I was kind of grossed out by it. Like
I'm not arguing the benefits of it or whether it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's definitely not. I mean, I don't want to say definitely not, but I don't think every time it's in a cartoon it's a fetish. I think you can tell. Like, I mean, I know people hate this discussion, but if we're talking about total drama, the specific fart episode of the reboot season. It's not just, and there have been farts in previous seasons of Total Drama, right? But this is starkly different. Like, she's holding her skirt down like Marilyn Monroe, and they're all like blushing while they're farting. Like, you can tell when it's fetish art.
Yeah, I think someone somewhere was kind of having a little bit too much fun with that, like, being totally honest.
Right, and even if there's, like, even if we want to extend the benefit of the doubt, maybe they weren't trying, and they just were more seasoned with drawing fetish art, and they're like, oh, it's like whenever, you know, you ask a furry artist to draw a dog, and you ask, like, a different artist to draw a dog, they're going to draw two very different dogs. And it's not because they're necessarily trying to make an attractive dog. It's just because, you know, you've been drawing a dog that way for so long. It's kind of hard to break it, to shake it.
Yeah, no. And actually, that reminds me of, to be honest, like, in some ways, the Emma, like, holding down her skirt, like, to, like, I guess, like, shield the freaking, like, gust of wind or whatever. Mm-hmm. There is something that is kind of funny about that, I'll admit. If it's done, but I don't find it attractive or hot or anything like that. I find it kind of repulsive and gross, which I think is kind of the point. You know, actually reminds me, like, I've never been like Owen's fart humor. I think just because I like everything else about the seasons where that's a big thing. It's never bothered me that much. Because I feel like the show has always had a lot of good material that's kind of made it feel like it was still worth watching, at least for me personally.
I think
but
those jokes...
if it didn't,
it's not, for me, it's not the fart that's funny. It's the misfortune of the people around it, who it's affecting. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the best fart joke in the series is when Alejandro tries to kick him out of the plane and it immediately, like, shoots in his face. It's not really the fart that makes it funny. It's his misfortune.
Yeah.
You know, a wise man once said that all comedy is timing and pain and misfortune. Which is probably not true. But I can't think of a single joke that isn't misfortunate. But I was talking about 30 Rock before. I said that's the one that I haven't really got into. And whenever, you know, it happens like clockwork every month or so, there's always a time on Twitter when people are posting their favorite 30 Rock GIFs. It's never the clips, it's always GIFs. And I grew up on Tumblr, so a lot of that was 30 Rock GIFs as well. And those bits always seem really, really funny. And a lot of them are in the later seasons. So whenever I try and, like, oh, I'm going to watch it from the beginning, it takes me a little bit. I mean, we talked about this with Seinfeld and other shows. Like, it takes a lot of shows, like, a decent bit to get good. Like, Community is one of my favorite shows. And everyone always talks about the low points of season 5 or season 6. But I honestly think at points that early season 1 is harder to watch than, like, season 6.
Yeah, I think like, it takes a few episodes to really kind of hit the rhythm it likes. Yeah. I think the first few episodes are a little bit slow. I will say, though, the debate team episode, like when they made a joke early on about how the school has the gayest basketball team.
Yeah.
And then, like, halfway through the episode, the basketball practice starts and there's a bunch of guys in, like, really thin shorts. Mm-hmm. Like, that's like maybe think like, okay, I think I'm at the good episode. I think the show just got, like, really, really good.
Yeah, there is a turning point because, you know, a lot of what works about that show, like Troy and Abed, for example, was not something they discovered until they started making the show. Whereas the first handful of episodes are likely the ones they started making. Like, you know, the earliest ones in development. And it was Dan Harmon's first sitcom, so he clearly just like, okay, I want to... And this makes sense, you know, even though if you're a wacky guy, if you're eccentric, if you like more absurdist comedy, what you want to do first is make a show that most people like. You know, you want to make an average show. And then you can go out the woodwork doing crazy stuff if you get another season. And we talked also about cartoons, like episodic cartoons and the prospect of binging them as opposed to like catching them on TV. And that's why I really liked having Checkered Past or even like still watch Adult Swim, even though they're shows I've mostly seen, that it is nice to just kind of throw something on and kind of just sit and watch whatever episode they show you, as opposed to a curated playlist or even watching the episodes in order, because sometimes you want to mix up the shows. I'm glad that some streaming services have like a shuffle button for some shows, but when it came to Stugo, which we have been watching weekly, recently, here's your Patreon Discord server update. There's been a bit of a coup, and now we've done a group vote on the shows people actually want to watch. So there's other shows that did not quite make the cut, so I'm going to keep watching Andor on my own time, even though I think Andor is great. But people in the server, in the Patreon Discord server, would rather watch Xavier, and Infinity Train, which are shows I like. But we did keep Stugo. And Stugo is one that I've been really loving. I think, honestly, all the latest Disney cartoons, like the ones the past couple of years, aside from Hamster and Gretel, which I don't fuck with, like Primos and Stugo have been the funniest cartoons in a while. And I expected that from Jellystone, and I went into it really hoping, like, oh, I love C.H. Greenblatt's work. I want this to be, like, the funny show. And it's not unfunny, but I think the hardest I laughed or thought bits were funny were from Stugo and Primos. But Stugo, like the first couple episodes, I did not care at all. It took me a while to get into it. But I'm glad I did, because now the show is a lot more silly and crazy. And I understand why. It's that old adage or the idea, whenever you watch a documentary or they're upping a comedian or a beloved character on a sitcom, and they always say, like, oh yeah, he came on set and started, like, riffing and ad-libbing his own lines, and he was so funny we kept it in. That idea of doing that is sort of held up and praised and put on a pedestal to be like, oh, you should do this. But in actuality, I think most people that work on that show would greatly be annoyed or hate you if you showed up on day one and just were not doing your job. So I understand the purpose of wanting to make a show that's just middle-of-the-road uniform, but because of that, it being your show doesn't really shine through till the middle of season 1. Maybe season 2, maybe even later.
A lot of people have to wait a while. I mean, honestly, all things considered, I'd say Community was pretty lucky, because I think they really kind of found a good rhythm about halfway in. And I think Community was always willing, at least while Dan Harmon was still there. I think it, obviously stumbled a little bit. But I think, in season 2, they start writing Pierce as a villain. And that creates some of the best episodes of the show.
Yeah.
They kind of play with Britta a lot. And all that's to say is that, like, I think you got to be willing to compromise when you don't have the cachet to be, to, like, order everyone around and kind of demand a lot more than just kind of something that's passable, as much as I hate to say it. I mean, that's just frankly part of the work. You kind of have to be willing to compromise.
Yeah, if it's your first show, I mean, obviously you don't want to ruffle any feathers.
I guess the George Lucas comparison. Yeah, exactly. So asking to do a whole paintball war episode as the first episode is kind of a crazy idea. I think people would look at you like weird.
Yeah, it's a tough pitch. But I think there's a lot of cartoons, and we talked about this when it comes to, like, binging as in watching all of them in a row. I much prefer I prefer watching an episode a week. But beyond that, I also prefer just kind of catching the episodes. Obviously, I don't have cable anymore. But I wish more companies, more of these, majority cartoon companies, would curate a stream on their streaming services. And some of them are sort of doing that. Like Paramount has a live stream that's just constant SpongeBob, and they have a channel now that's constant SpongeBob. And that's all well and good if someone wants to put on some SpongeBob. And I think a little bit ago, Disney Plus was also just, like, streaming all of the Simpsons episodes in order, and you could just jump in whenever. I think we're just constantly reinventing cable. And I wish
I had Disney Plus, but I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, check out Andor.
Does anyone have Disney Plus? Anyone give me Disney Plus? Disney Plus?
That'll be a donation.
But anyway, yeah, I was like, but actually, that reminds me, I really fucking wish I had Boomerang as a kid. My cheap-ass parents didn't have Boomerang on a DirecTV plan. Because I remember, like, whenever I was at a hotel or someone else's house and I was able to catch it and see, like, Johnny Bravo and shit, I was partying.
Mm-hmm.
And Nicktoons, too. Like, I didn't get to see Nicktoons as much, but I just kind of wish I was able to watch those, like, 2004 shows. Because some of them are really good. Like, some of them are really good. I didn't get as much of that as I wish I could.
Yeah, I had a friend who I grew up in the same neighborhood who would, like, watch Powerpuff Girls on Boomerang all the time and would talk about it. And I just, like, didn't get it because, I didn't watch that show. Basically, anything before Camp Lazlo, other than Courage, because they did air Courage a lot still in reruns, but everything else, like, I did entirely miss out on. Like, I saw some Ed and Eddie, but I don't think I've ever watched... Well, I've probably got a handful of episodes, but the likes of Kids Next Door... or Powerpuff or Dexter or Samurai Jack, and that's why I liked Checkered Past. There's a lot of those shows that I just never watched or have seen because I didn't have a reason to do so. I'm glad that, again, this is a channel I don't watch anymore, but people will talk about how far Cartoon Network has fallen. And that's fair because there are no Cartoon Network originals. There's no Cartoon Network studio anymore. But I like that the channel now just has reruns of all of their shows from multiple eras as opposed to just that one distinct era. Oh, before you were saying that a couple things. You were saying that you bonded with your mom a lot because she really liked Phineas and Ferb. I remember that first or maybe second summer where Phineas and Ferb was just coming out, his first season probably, and it split over that, where we would go on vacation and there's one family that we were with, and their dad, I guess, like, you know, when you're a parent, when you're a dad, you want to be funny, you want to be the funny guy, so whatever your kids latch onto, that's got to be your bit. And I feel like that entire week we were there one year, he was just doing the Doofenshmirtz voice the entire time. Because we all loved it. That was like the funniest thing to us at the moment. And it is funny.
So it worked out.
Yeah, that there are adults in my like 40s or 50s that I think it's cute. They try and connect with their kids over cartoons. The fact that there's like, you know, some, I guess now 50 or 60-year-old out there who has like an encyclopedic knowledge of Phineas and Ferb. And like my mom liked SpongeBob, but my dad, after my parents split, I would go over to my dad's place on Mondays so we could watch cartoons and wrestling. Because I made him watch Total Drama with me, so I just watch Total Drama with him all the time. And I forget sometimes that he's seen the majority of that show. Like, whenever he brings it up, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that there's like, you know, this 60-year-old businessman walking around who's got like a real-life job.
Does he have like opinions on it? Is he?
Well, that's the thing, is that like, because they were Monday nights, it was that era of Cartoon Network Mondays when they it was Adventure Time and Regular Show and Mad and Total Drama, and then we would watch wrestling after. So like all those shows that like even cartoon reviewers or like cartoon fans maybe have not seen it, like my dad saw it, and still to this day, like whenever I bring it up, he's like, oh, I really hate that one mountain show with the monsters. He still thinks about Secret Mountain Fort Awesome. I don't know any other. I don't know anyone else.
That show as a kid.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's like, if I wasn't involved, there is a 60-something dude walking around who like mostly wears a suit, grew up in like the 60s, 70s, who has opinions on Secret Mountain Fort Awesome in 2025. Wow.
That makes me feel a lot more jubilant. It's like, you know what?
It's never too late, man. You could always be watching cartoons.
Hopefully one day I can hate shows that my kids watch.
Yeah. That's what I hated, too, is when my older sister would be like, oh, you know, there was a study that cartoons rot your brain. And I imagine whatever I was watching was dumb. But I think there's very few things that are dumb that actively rot brains. I think that, you know, the term brain rot does come from that. I would say I don't think there's anything really on TV that will do that to children. I think if you put an iPad in front of your kid, your developing toddler, and they're just scrolling through YouTube shorts, I think that can maybe stunt development for sure. There's been a lot of discussion, people going up in arms about, was it Tiny Chef? There was a Nicktoons show, or Nick Jr. show, sorry, called Tiny Chef, and they got canceled recently. So the production company made like a purposefully kind of guilting and sad video of Tiny Chef like learning that they got canceled, and now the internet is like, I've never watched the show, but now I care, like I'm up in arms. And I think the show looks really pretty, but the main character, he kind of talks purposefully with an impediment, like a jumbled mouth. And I saw a different tweet that's like, okay, this show is really cute, and it's a shame it got canceled, but this has to be awful for, like, language development in children. And I don't think that's why it got canceled. I think just, you know, sometimes these channels cancel.
Dude, imagine if Pingu makes people stupid.
Well, I watched, like, I think Teletubbies as a kid, and even my mom was like, yeah, I didn't get that one. Because, like, I like to think, I mean, we like to think, you know, like, oh, we're not going to be like our parents. You know, we're the cool ones. We play video games, and we're on the internet, and we watch cartoons. You know, we get it. But sometimes there is things that I hear about kids watching today, and granted, a lot of it is just internet slop. But sometimes there are shows they're watching, and I'm like, this can't be good for your kid. And I'm feeling myself getting older. I'm slipping into that.
Yeah, dude, I genuinely wonder if me playing on like my Nintendo Switch is gonna be like how I see my dad when he says he wants to go fishing. It's like I fucking hate fishing, and I'm thinking to myself, like, is that gonna one day be a lame dad activity? Not to say my dad is lame, but I think that like some of the things he does for fun are lame.
Right.
Sure. Like, your dad's lame. Got it. When like my kids are like, oh my god, there's my stupid dad,
And his soy switch.
His like soy switch.
And you're wearing the Zelda shirt, and the cargo pants, and you got your Loot Crate box. Dad's at it again. There's one of the most popular. I don't think a lot has super changed, but the most popular career paths for young people that are eventually going to have kids, and then their kids are going to be like, yeah, my dad was like I don't know, an Uber or like a DoorDash driver. Anything like that. I know there's more and more content creators that are like having children. I always find that really charming. DoorDash? Huh?
Can you like support a family on like being an Uber Eats driver?
Maybe if you keep doing it, I don't know.
Maybe.
Listen, families persevere no matter what. That's true. I always tell myself that like I don't think I would have a kid because I don't think I'll ever have the money. And obviously like I didn't live my life assuming that I would have a kid, so I didn't set up like a career path like, okay, this is all for them, for hypothetical future them. I'm like, well, I would want enough for one, them to have a good life, hypothetically, and two, enough so that I don't have to work so that I can be there for them. But that is an insane amount of money to do both of those things. And I say that like, oh, I don't have enough money, but I don't really want one. But that's my tell is like, oh, maybe if I had all the money, I could do that. But, you don't need all that to be a family. It still perseveres. Some people are just poor.
Yeah, no, I mean, not to be classist. I think more in the sense
not around me though.
What people consider to be in order to have like what people consider to be, a healthy family upbringing, quote unquote, or like healthy like being able to provide for your kids like healthily or whatever. Frankly, nowadays, at least in the United States, that's seen as like a luxury good. You need to make good ass money to be able to do that, unfortunately. And yeah, I'm just thinking to myself, I mean, theoretically, like, I mean, you probably could, it'd probably be hard to be like a one income family on like Uber Eats unless you really, really grind out the gig economy. But I assume there's a lot of things you'll have to compromise on, at least things that people usually wouldn't want to let go of.
Right. I think that's why I think it's not so much. And it's the same thing with I talked about this on a different stream after last podcast. I think it was last podcast where we talked about dating app culture and situationships and going on dates. And I realized something that I had forgotten, that when I was talking out loud and I was saying like, man, why do people go on these dates if they don't like dating or they hate these people? And then you said something so mundane that I legitimately didn't consider, and it like blew my mind that you said like, oh, you know how people just like sometimes want to hook up with someone. And I was like, oh, right. Like I forgot that blew my mind. And then it makes me assess that for most of my adult life, I was like, I'm a pretty asexual person. Like, I think I don't want anything to do with anybody. But I think what changed is I really love my partner. And obviously, like, it's not that I'm making exceptions for them. It's that, like, I enjoy doing that with them. It's just that I don't enjoy it with really anyone else. And that a lot of these things are not stark yes or no switches. For me, it's always been more of a game of comparison when it comes to, what's the word I'm looking for? Priorities. An argument of priorities. Where it's not that, like, I'm anti-sex, like, oh, man, that's gross, don't get that near me. It's more that, like, yeah, no, I mean, if I have to work to do that, I kind of don't want to do it. Like, it's not worth it to me. Like, I mean, like, seeking out a partner. Or, like, if that in the comparison of like watching a movie or playing a game, it's like, yeah, these are all about on the same level. And I thought that everyone thought that way, so I'm like, oh, I'm overplaying this whole asexual thing. But then, you talk to the average person, the populace, and it's kind of their main priority. Not for everyone, but, that's people think about it way more, and you just assume, from your experiences, like, oh, my experiences are universal. Everyone doesn't really like it that much, but no. I forgot what my original point was. Oh, right, when it comes to kids, then I'm like, I don't know, maybe I do want one, if the fact that I'm not, like, solely, oh, I definitely don't want one. But there are people who are planning their whole life around having one and talk about it all the time, and they're like, oh, we're trying, and oh, I just need to get this set up so for my kids in the future. The fact that, like, I don't think about that at all, it's like, okay, maybe I don't want one. Not that it's not starkly yes or no, it's more like I don't care that much.
Yeah, it's not like a big priority, I think, for your life that you're willing to kind of make way for and kind of really
it's also
extreme.
like, would I be willing to stop doing what I'm doing as a career to raise a kid? And I think the answer is no. I mean, yeah, it would be cool to like maybe have one. Again, this is just like hypothetical, like, oh, I want to hang out with a guy. But the fact of the matter is, it's way more difficult. I think you have to be you have to be selfless a little bit to be able to do that, because I do think a lot of people are having them just for selfish purposes. And these are just like fun thought experiments. I know in comparison to other people, like, oh, I don't have a setup for this at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things like that aren't starkly, that it feels, or maybe we're told that it's starkly yes or no options, but it's more, it's like, well, how much do you care about this? It's like, well, not really. It's the same thing with potentially like body image stuff as well. Like, sometimes I catch glimpses of myself when I'm like walking by a mirror, like looking in a TV after it just turned off, and I'm like, oh, I don't really like how that looks. But the fix to that is really easy. All you have to do is, like, exercise a certain amount, control your diet, like a regimen. And I'm not like, oh man, that's impossible, it's debilitating. Like, I could do it, it's pretty easy for most people. But I choose not to because I don't care that much. And I think that's the different argument of comparison. It's like, if it really bothered me that much, then I would do something about it. I think it's just intrusive thoughts that sometimes like swoop in, and it's like, you're disgusting.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is that, a lot of decisions you make in your life have a benefit and a cost. And I think for a lot of people, the idea of really developing a rigid kind of very serious workout routine involves, I guess, compromising on other parts of their life in a way that they don't like the idea of. And in sometimes, frankly, they like they might overestimate how annoying it would be. I think some people often have like the wrong idea about making certain changes in their life or whatever. But at the same time, there are days where, at least for me, there are certain kind of maintenance tasks that I have for self-care that are kind of a pain in the ass in the moment, but I kind of think it's very important to, in the long term, obviously there's benefits that I think are worth it. Yeah. So I, trudge through a little bit. I think some people, I mean, as much as I hate to be as smug as it sounds, frankly, the lack of what's the word, willpower, or I guess willpower is the word, or that I've seen
Impulse
from some
control?
people around me.
Oh yeah.
Not well, that too, but that's kind of a different discussion. Like, I've been surprised by how little some people are willing to kind of like push to kind of make a change in their life. As much as I hate to say it, as smug as it sounds. Like, I mean, there are a lot of things that I'm not good at, but one thing I'll give myself credit for personally is that, for example, my YouTube channel has is a result of thousands and thousands of hours of very devoted effort, and not every hour has been fun. I think it's very worthwhile for me. It's a thing I love about my life, but editing can often be an arduous process, but I still do it. And I think there's a good amount of people, maybe not necessarily with video editing, they struggle to kind of keep their focus or keep their eyes on the prize the minute it gets a little bit difficult. Whether, I mean, it could be for a silly thing like a YouTube channel, or serious things like, for example, like work or your education, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've definitely had friends who get sudden flights of fancy about something, like, oh, this is going to be my thing. This is what's really going to get me out of the rut. Like, this is going to be it. I have career aspirations, like, oh, this is my dream or whatever. And maybe I have a chip on my shoulder because I don't want to pretend like I didn't come from a point of privilege, because I did. I was able to work on YouTube nonstop for years because I came from a good household, and I was able to work as a teenager to like save up that money. And I was never in like any real danger of being homeless, like, ever. That I, for years before being on the internet became lucrative for me, I was just grinding it out nonstop. That being said, there are a lot of, And I see this a lot, you know, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. People ask me for advice or talk about like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel. Like, oh, I want to make this video. I want to start doing this. It's like, well, why are you talking about like wanting to start it? Like, why don't you just do it? I don't really get that. Of like that, oh, I'm going to do it. And I get that, you know, normal people have normal jobs, but, you know, so do you. In a normal job, normal career, more or less.
And that's the difficult thing. I think a lot of people, you know, I guess they like the idea, they like a fantasy about doing stuff, but they struggle to actually fit it into their actual life.
Yeah.
You know?
For me, it's hard to do anything that isn't related to work, like this type of work. So I try and always make it a work thing, or try and trick myself or tie it in somehow. Like if there's a game I want to play, or something in my collection I want to get, if I get it for a video, it's not even just for tax reasons, like, oh, this is a tax write-off. It's more just for me, if it's a business expense, it doesn't feel like I'm wasting money or wasting time, because I just love working nonstop. And even, like, playing games in the Patreon server or watching shows every Sunday, like, that is technically a part of my job that I push myself to do, but ostensibly gives me a couple-hour break every weekend to do so. Yeah. There's a lot of things, little hobbies or talents that I want to pick up, stuff I want to teach myself, that I find it hard to do on the side. And every now and then I'm just like, oh, I'll just make this a part of the video. And then I will have an excuse to do it. It hasn't really come to fruition with larger hobbies or talents yet. I want to do that later this year. I'm trying to save up more money for that, because it's been an expensive beginning of the year, and also the Switch launch and all that. But when it comes to like shows that if I can sit down on my own time and like watch it, and I'll like get bored or be on my phone or whatever, I don't have the inspiration. But as soon as watching that show becomes work, that's honestly why I made the Clone Wars video a couple of years back. It's because I tried watching the show multiple times, but couldn't, and I just wasn't feeling it. But I'm like, okay, but if I make it my job and I have to write about each episode and watch a couple episodes a day, then it lights a fire under my ass and inspires me to watch it. And honestly, a lot of my videos don't really exist like under the premise or a thesis of me having an opinion, or like, oh, this one's going to do numbers, or, oh, this will be a good video. It's more like, oh, I've always wanted to watch this thing or talk about this thing, and doing a video on it will give me an excuse to watch it, play it, see it, research it.
Definitely, yeah. Have you ever had issues with kind of... I think honestly the answer is no, and I've seen it personally that it's no. But I do wonder, like, have you ever had issues kind of keeping the momentum of video going, because I guess it's a show that you would struggle to kind of watch through fast enough on your own without the incentive of a video being made? Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, for example, like, did you have trouble kind of keeping the ball rolling with the Clone Wars video, or?
Well, for me, it's not like, oh, I watch a bunch at once and then get burnt out. I don't do it by, oh, I watch when I want to watch it. I always divide. That's the way I'm able to make videos the way I do. If I have a certain number of pages on a script, I'm like, okay, I'll record that and either calculate it by pages, hours, or how long the video is when I cut it all down, and then divide that by 30 or so, and then I edit that amount each day. So, like, the latest... I'm trying to think of an example. There hasn't been... 300 is a lot. There was one long... I guess the Barnyard video, the script is really long. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to edit about 11 or 12 pages a day. But I still did that same amount every day. And it took all day, but I managed to do it each day. So when it came to Clone Wars, it was... I think the first 2 seasons, if I remember. So it was 26 episodes for both. So I think I would watch 2 episodes a day. And that's what I've been doing for most of the shows when it came to... now I could talk about the Fantastic Four one. Like, I've been working on this one for a while, and it's multiple different shows. So I would just schedule it out so I would watch and write about an episode a day. Sometimes I would watch an episode, take notes, and then the next day write about that episode while also watching the next episode. Not at the same time, but watch the next episode, take notes, so on and so forth. Sometimes I write the script as I'm watching the episode, and some of the videos you can tell if I, like, cut myself off and I'm like, wait a minute, that's wrong. But I always divide and schedule it out. It's how I do every video, even the ones that aren't strictly a television show with a following format. Like it's, a foregone conclusion that I'm working on a total drama video for the end of July. And that one I had a lot of smaller topics that I instead, like, split those topics into individual days. Like, okay, at this day I'll talk about the forward for this, and the next day I'll talk about the middle of this, so on and so forth. I don't really do well with free writing. Like, oh, I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to work on the video whenever I want to work on it, and it'll be done when it's done. I don't really do well with that, because if there's no deadline, then it really will never get done. I mean, it will. That's an exaggeration, but I like to have that deadline so I know what I can do each day. Every day I need to edit this amount, write this amount, film this amount, so on and so forth. And I always divide it by 30 and then split it up by the month. And it helps to have a video a month so that I have a format already in place to do so. Are you more of a free-form creator where you just start writing? Do you ever have end goals in mind?
No, because I couldn't reach them.
Yeah.
We
have very vast projects.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just a matter of getting it done when it's done, I guess. Like, I try and put a certain amount in every day, but earlier on, for example, I used to try and edit an episode review a day. So back in the Island and Action days for eras, for example, I would review, edit an episode a day, finish the video, frankly, in a month. At least editing wise.
Mm-hmm.
I think I basically made the entire Action video in 2 months. But nowadays, the amount of kind of time put into everything is by an order of magnitude larger. There's so much more that, I mean, I remember when I was working on the Revenge of the Island video, I quickly had to realize that I needed more than one day to edit all the kind of entries together. And that really changed. I don't really have a specific kind of metric that I can comfortably kind of shoot for. And honestly, it's kind of annoying. I wish I did, because there's never a day where I feel like I've done enough, even if I have or quote unquote haven't. You know what I mean?
I'm always exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah. Because I remember in the past, I could edit a certain amount, and then I know, okay, I edited everything I needed to today. I'm good. Let me just chill out. Not so much anymore. I never really feel like I've done my share for the day. Now I can kind of focus on other things.
My thing is always that this is obviously what I've always wanted to do, and I derive so much enjoyment from seeing the response to videos or streaming or engaging with the community, or even watching my own videos back years later and being like, oh yeah, I did like that bit. The finished product does so much to me. Honestly, I hear from some editors sometimes who are like, oh, when I'm in the zone, editing is so fun. I don't find editing fun at all. I find it more often than not monotonous, because
same.
There's I guess it depends on philosophy, but very rarely do I think of a bit on the spot to put in the video. If there are editing jokes in the video, they were probably written into the script ahead of time. The writing part is when I'm like, oh, this would be a good time to insert this clip.
Okay, yeah. Definitely, that's usually the case with me. Occasionally, I'll come up with something that I find kind of clever in the editing stage. There are a few visual little things I've done that are kind of exciting to do. They're often annoying to do, but they're exciting. But a lot of the time, one of the most annoying things is when I had a joke that I kind of like the idea of in theory, 2-3 months ago or whatever. And then I'm at the point where I have to edit it in, and it's just not hitting anymore, or I just don't really know how to go about it. Yeah. And then I have to kind of debate whether or not to go through with it or just kind of cut it out and stuff like that. That's always kind of a shitty feeling.
Where it doesn't really land as much, or you can't even get the edit quite right. But
yeah, I mean, also, because I think I've bit off more than I can chew in the past with what I'm editing, that it's just hard to get something to feel right the way I'm kind of editing it, and I don't really know how to kind of do it the way I wish it could be done.
Because I fear sometimes when I am writing, I'm being too restrictive, because I'm I need to film this in my room, that I very rarely write in more visual bits or bits that would involve props anymore. Whereas I think it'd be more fun to do so. There's videos in the future that, again, the Fantastic Four video, there's a lot of stuff I bought solely for that video. A lot of the videos I just buy costumes or props solely for that script, and it feels a little better because it is for work and it's not nearly as bad. But there's one, I'll say this, for the Total Drama video I have plans at the end of July, I'm because it's a total drama video, and I don't want to say like, oh, I know it's gonna do well, because sometimes it won't. Maybe I fell off. Who knows? But I don't. I am already not being forced to make it because it's a video I want to make. But there's the story. Well, what's the word? There's the narrative that I'm being forced to do it. I'm like, well, if I'm gonna do this anyway, I'm gonna use this as like a self-serving excuse to get something and like build something I've wanted to for a while for this video. And then I could say like, oh no, I did it for this video. I don't know if you've had any... I've been dealing with it today, and it's only a handful of people, because I released the teaser for the Fantastic Four video, and which was supposed to be the end of June, but I've been pushing all the videos back to like the beginning of the months, because I like how it fits a little better now. But because of that, July has always been the total drama month for me. So the people that only watch the total drama videos have come out of the woodwork. And I forget every year how... And my opinions are not the opinions of both hosts of Switch to Ultra. How annoying I find a lot of the total drama fans on YouTube, especially when it comes to my videos. It feels so entitled, and that's what bugs me. Is the kind of like I hate that. Like, I know it's all in good fun, but like the chop editor boy, like get back to it. That bugs me because I don't ever stop editing. Like, I'm constantly working. And I don't really fuck with the premise that I'm like, oh, I'm slacking off or something. Yeah.
Definitely.
But specifically, I get it. You know, some people only watch their total drama video a year, and that's totally fine. As long as they're fine with me doing whatever I want other months, I don't care. Like, I'd much rather connect to a bunch of different groups than just one and like, have to make videos I don't want to make or I'm not proud of. Yeah. And I don't want the narrative to change. I do want to make this upcoming video, the total drama one, which is the end of July, focus more on Fantastic Four that's coming out soon. It's a video I want to make and a script I really like, and I'm actually really excited about it, but it always drains me when people are like, oh, finally, or on any other video where they're like, when's the next total drama video? Like, I don't know if they think I can't read the comments, or if they think somehow it's going to make me do it faster, or if they're entitled because they believe a level of my fame is because of them. And that's the thing, is that, like, I've done bits several times about, like, oh, I don't want to make total drama videos anymore, which isn't true, because I love total drama, and I think July is always a good excuse for me to talk about it, because I like talking about it. But every time I get this feedback, and it makes me want to stop doing it just so they'll shut up or leave.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever experienced any of that.
Oh, I mean, I've definitely experienced it. Like, frankly, I've had the habit of, like, I'll maybe it's not the best habit. I've been sassy with them before.
Oh yeah. I don't care about the whole power dynamic or divide or whatever. When it comes to annoying comments, I'll tell people to go fuck themselves.
Yeah, no, if you know, because I think it is deeply. I mean, I guess in the sense of, maybe they're just playing. So if they're playing, then I'll play back to them. I mean, that's the way I think about it. Yeah. But on some level, I do find it kind of demeaning when people say stuff like that to me. So, especially when people talk to me like I'm being lazy. It's no, I mean, I there's a certain amount of respect right now that I don't really feel like I owe you. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to give it to you.
And there's also, in the context of like, oh, should I respond to this? Should I push back? And like kind of the stigma against it. If you don't do it, then it's not going to stop. Because more often than not, most of the time when I'm like, hey, fuck you, or like, hey, you're being annoying, or... What I used to do is every time someone would ask when the next total drama video was, I would comment and say, like, every time somebody says this, it gets pushed back another month. So because of you, it just went back again. That every time you push back, they're always like, oh, sorry. Like, they immediately concede. And again, you know, there's a power dynamic, so maybe there's something there. But I think it's because most people...
I think they're being kind of real. They're being called out by someone they're being rude to, that they're being rude. Yeah. And they kind of have a moment of self-reflection there where they're like, yeah, maybe...
I think it's more that, like, they assume we can't see the comments. I see every YouTube comment I get, man. Like...
Yeah, it's not like I'm that popular where I, like, just cannot afford to look at all my comments.
And it makes sense, like, when you're looking at a popular video, even if you sort by newest, you're not going to do that all the time. You're only going to see either when you're watching or the most popular comments. And it happens a lot when people are correcting me, that somebody will start the comment and be like, hey, I don't know if anyone's told you this yet. And I got like 100 other comments that said it. And, you know, they mean well.
Anne Maria's in Redonkulous Race, dude.
Right.
Did you not
That's
know?
the one for sure.
I think I'm the first of these 2 million people.
I don't know if anyone's ever told you
that.
this, but again, like, you know, they don't see all the other comments, so it's not their fault. But it does weigh on you a little bit. But yeah, there are people. I guess like, I do feel more emboldened to push back against rude commenters because they're trying to get away with it by that filter of like, oh, they're not going to read this. And I do think there is a part of that, and it's not something you really realize until you start making videos and start having a platform like that, is that, like, no, like, they do see everything, and I get it. You know, I came up in the internet, too. Like, when you're mostly anonymous, it emboldens you to say things, especially to punch up. Like, when I was a small YouTuber, and I still am, but when I was smaller, I was punching up all the time. Like, anyone that had over, like, 1 million was like, oh, this guy's cringe, or make fun of them, or whatever. But then when you get to a certain point, you're like, I don't mean any of this. I don't care about any of this. I was just like, I was angry at the world, and I was throwing punches wherever they would land.
Yeah, no, I've had people say that to me. A few weeks ago, someone said that like I was kind of saying something about like you know, art or something, just like a general opinion about the value of art, and someone said the guy who makes this makes like total drama, Ace Attorney Club Penguin slop videos. And I'm like, yeah, dude. It's like, what do you want me to say? Like, it's cool. It's like, despite that, I think in a lot of ways I'm a much more imaginative person than you are.
Yeah.
So
somehow
it's like,
it's better than making nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's whenever someone who doesn't do anything like this kind of has like a superiority complex, it's like, yeah, sure, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think what we do is on the level
not to
of
say
the
that the only valuable.
about.
Not to say that the only valuable thing to do in your life is talk about video games and cartoons, but you know, there's like there are people that I know that I've seen that don't really do much other than just kind of be cynical, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I'd rather make slop than just kind of be bitter at the entire world for being stupid or something, and not
get political in the Switch 2 Ultra political corner. There's a lot of leftist infighting constantly because whenever there's a little bit of optimism, it's been happening with Zoran Mamdani lately.
Yeah,
where people are like, oh, that's so cool to have, you know, this young and very left mayor, and then people are like, yeah, but he said he wasn't gonna abolish the police. It's like, yeah, well, if he said that, then he wouldn't be mayor.
The NYPD would kill him, dude.
Yeah, like we can't. I get it, right? Like, I know things are constantly bad, but like and I know that there is something to be said about just kind of accepting your fate instead of fighting back, but whenever that's that evergreen tweet about people on here will be like, why are you voting instead of firebombing a Walmart, and then not firebomb a Walmart. It's like, yeah, you could turn up your nose and be like, protest, don't do anything, why are you voting, it's stupid, this guy isn't left enough. It's like, okay, well then what are you doing? Like, what do you say we do then?
Yeah, exactly. It's very it's kind of I guess trying to find, what's the word, can't think of the word right now, but nobility in your inaction, I guess. And
yeah, I'm not doing anything because it doesn't matter.
Even in the realm of like cartoon discussion, like I remember I had a friend, I love this guy, but I think he was considering making a YouTube channel, and I kind of told him, it's like, dude, I think you know a lot, you could probably make some interesting videos about this topic. And he kind of brought up that he made like one video that was pretty small, and he got a few weird comments. He's like, yeah, I don't want to do that, I don't want to be anyone's dancing monkey. And I'm like, well, dude, I guess I'm a dancing monkey then.
It really isn't if you like doing it.
Yeah.
Now is the section of the podcast where we bring up Sabrina Carpenter as well. We're covering all the important topics.
Oh, what happened with Sabrina Carpenter?
Well, nothing recently, just what you just said about, like, intent. It's about whether or not you want to do something, not whether or not the thing is good or bad. Like, making YouTube videos that people want to watch, if you view it as like, oh, I have to do this, or I don't want to be like their jester, their clown, or whatever, it's like, well, if you enjoy doing it and it's your decision to do so, then that's not the case, even if it's the exact same video. Similarly, when Sabrina Carpenter released, I think it was her album art of not Man-Child, but like the album of her like on her hands and knees like a dog and being led around by her hair, and people see that and say like, oh man, she's pushing the feminist movement back like years. It's like, why? Because she chose to do it, like, because she likes doing this. Nobody made her do this.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question, because on some level I kind of understand their argument, because I guess the point they're making is that I guess first of all, she's a woman in a position of privilege for whatever that matters, but I guess she's kind of co-opting certain aesthetics that historically have been seen as misogynistic, the kind of like pinup, the kind of I guess that kind of that kind of photography. But
yeah.
that actually reminds me of, I guess, discourse about things like sex work in the feminist movement, whether it's empowering, whether it's like
I think we're the right people to be talking
like
about
that.
this.
Yeah, no, I know, right? Like
people need to hear what we have to say.
Everyone circle around. But I think there is definitely a debate to be had there. But at the same time, I think that part of, I think, women's rights is the right to be sexual, is the right to be empowered in one's own sexuality. And
a difference if you choose to do so. That is your decision. It's the same thing with like those trad wife people, that there's a large subsect of them that are, I mean, most of them are grifters that are saying like, oh, you need to be conservative and vote conservative so that you can be a trad wife, because like, oh, there are large subsects of women that, or maybe not large, but there's sub-communities. There are women out there that want to be wives, want to be mothers, like cooking, cleaning, like looking pretty. And they think that like progressivism is against that and is barring them from doing that. When in actuality, the difference is, if you, with progressive, it sounds like insurance ad. The progressive ideal is that if you want to do that, you should be able to choose to do that. The difference is the ideal that you're looking for, like, oh man, take me back to the 50s. The difference there is, if you didn't want to do that, you were shit out of luck. You couldn't do that.
You get freaking committed.
And that's we're getting political here, but the difference between the ideology is that, like, other than just being racist or being offensive to any degree, there's nothing super leftist that like bars you from doing anything, right? Like if you I'm going to talk to you, centered, maybe conservative viewer watching this in the background pretending like you disagree. If you think abortions are icky and you don't want to get one, if you like traditional values like that, if you want to be a housewife, any of those things, you could still choose to do them, but don't bar someone else from doing them just because you don't like it. That's my stance. We're here at the second hour mark, so I think we can wrap this up by talking about Mario Kart World. You said you took some notes on Mario Kart World.
Yeah, I kind of said most of my piece, but it is interesting, just kind of the whole debate. I think one of the key elements of this whole discourse is the fact that Mario Kart World is, I guess, the MSRP is $80, and a lot of people don't like that. For what it's worth, at least in my case, I got this game effectively for $50, so it's not like, on some level, this game is definitely worth the price for me. If it was $80 though, I think I would understand. Well, I think I do understand a lot of the criticisms, even though I don't necessarily agree. But I could honestly think that I could honestly see myself like not being. Like, if I spent $80 for this game, I'd probably be a little bit bummed about it, all things considered. Maybe, I mean, I guess at least in the sense, as a buyer, I mean, it might be hard to kind of delineate my thoughts as a person who, as a consumer versus as a person who kind of talks about these things and wants to kind of be in depth for things like this show and my YouTube channel. Those are definitely things that kind of compulse me to buy this game regardless. But I definitely don't think this game was worth $80, frankly.
No.
Like,
I also think I was excited about it and liked it a lot, and it is a good game. But because, it was more of the excitement, it was very held up also by the excitement of the Switch 2 and it being really the only Switch 2 game. But as far, and I don't think it's a bad game, but as far as launch titles go or Nintendo series, it's definitely not the one I'd be most excited about.
Yeah.
Or care the most about.
I think like, yeah, I think all things considered, what's the word? Breath of the Wild is probably, all things considered, at least for the kind of circles that were, and it's probably the more meaningful launch title. It'd be kind of cool if the game we were all playing was, a super in-depth kind of adventure game, as opposed to, I mean, to be fair, a still pretty beefy, racing game. I think it's
certainly the biggest Mario Kart game. That's probably
definitely
fair.
Yeah. Doesn't have Funky Kong though, or Diddy Kong.
Tisk
tisk tisk.
What are the odds that we get Diddy and Funky when they release Bonanza? Because we're assuming it's just going to be Donkey Kong and Pauline skins. But what if they straight up just add Diddy and Dixie as kart racers?
I love that. It's funny. It's I've been thinking to myself. I remember a couple weeks ago I was a little bit on and off about Donkey Kong as a character, like Donkey Kong's redesign. I'm at the point where I love it. I love it so much. I love Donkey Kong's new design.
Yeah.
Like it's completely grown on me.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing, like, when we were watching back watching the Mario Kart footage before we had our hands on it and talking about how different or maybe how game-breaking or how, game-changing the intermissions could be when you're playing Mario Kart, and that's what began this discussion. But when you're actually playing it, at least to me, it doesn't do anything. Like, it doesn't affect me, really. Like, I don't even really notice it. It still feels like Mario Kart. Whereas when you're just looking at it, you want to have something to talk about. So when Donkey Kong's design changed, the major discussion was, oh, this is different. And it is different. And whether or not you view that as a good or bad thing, it is different. I always liked it, but it's definitely, you're right, it's grown on me a lot more now that, because in all fairness, we saw him mostly in like renders and blurry footage. We've got a lot more expressive cutscenes in 1080p to look at, to gawk at.
Yeah. And regarding the intermissions, I think one point that I meant to say, but I kind of didn't really say it outright. I think the reason that I'm kind of a little middling on them is that, as I said, there are a lot of races in the game, at least in the Grand Prix, that I would love to kind of linger around more often. Like, I love, I think Airship Fortress is one of them, but there were a few races I noticed when we were playing together is that it's like, oh, we only do 1 lap of this. I would love to do 3 laps of this because I love the setting, I love the environment, I love the music, and it's not like the intermission like mechanically boring. I don't really think that's the case. I think they're a little bit less visually interesting because they're not, as I said, they're not as thematically. They're not built around like a very specific theme like battleships. It's usually just kind of streets, power lines, stuff like that. And in a lot of ways they are cool. But I think for example, let's say Waluigi Pinball was in this game. I would want 3 fucking laps of Waluigi Pinball.
Yeah.
And I think there are a couple courses like that we don't really get, at least in Grand Prix, where it's a little bit sad. One thing I will say, though, is that at least for Knockout Tour, I love the intermissions. Because I think Knockout Tour is, honestly, I think I prefer it over the Grand Prix in this game. Like, I think especially because it's just one big race as opposed
that. I guess that makes more sense why people would be upset about the intermissions, is that if you want to play the game with intermissions, there already is a game mode for that, as opposed to just playing Grand Prix. I'm understanding more and more. I still don't agree. I mean, I can understand why people are upset, but my ultimate opinion really is that it doesn't really bother me. And the only note I have is Balloon Battle, really.
I think the most I guess honestly I'm kind of glad they made this change. I think it's a really fun new direction for the series to take. I think it keeps it fresh. I think there are a lot of courses where the intermission's a really fun part. I think what Nintendo should do though is they should add, at least in online play, a 3-lap mode, because I think that is something that a lot of people want, and sometimes I just want to play on the course. And I guess there are instances where I'd rather do that than kind of, play 2 laps kind of driving to a cool course and then 1 lap on the cool course. You know what I mean? But to be fair, I think sometimes the laps on the way are pretty fun too. And, I guess, it's just that, like, the laps on the way, they're never gigantic real-life pinball machines and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's why I was shocked to learn that exploit even existed, that you could do. Because, like, that still doesn't make sense to me as it being an exploit, because then that would mean that they had to purposefully develop 3-lap versions of some of these races.
They did. In the Versus mode, you can play whenever you basically when you select your stages, you see the entire map and you can click a stage. And when you click the stage, you can select between just playing on the stage itself or the stage going to a different stage. All the stages that you directly go to.
But you can't do that online.
No, you can't. I mean, maybe you can in friends lobbies, but in online, what you get is that you kind of the lobby is in a certain area, and you can pick from one of 3 or 4 levels that you want to go to next, or a random choice from those levels, because those levels are all connected to the current place you're at.
The more and more I learn about this update, the less I'm siding with the people complaining about it, because I'm learning that. I didn't know it was an exploit. I thought it was like a feature. I didn't know that you could still do 3-lap versions of all these courses. Not that I'm like against it, because it is a feature. Yeah, but I guess that sucks. But it's not enough for me to dislike the game because of it.
Oh yeah, I mean this definitely doesn't like ruin the game for me.
Right.
Like intermission. I'm not a huge fan of intermissions, but like it is not a freaking deal breaker.
You can still unlock stuff in those online modes, like the friend mode, right?
I assume, but I'm not 100%.
Because I know there's still some. Have you unlocked all the characters? Because there's still some tertiary Mario characters.
I don't know if I have the dolphin yet.
Right. Because the Kamek item turns you. It is like depending on what course you're in. And some of them are specific. So, like, I don't have the bonefish, and that's in Dry Bones Burnout, I think. Someone in my chat said. So now that I know that I could just pick that stage and just keep doing that, whenever I'm playing it next, whenever I'm on the stream mode playing it, I guess. I do want to try out the online modes. That's the only other note, is the fact that you have to play online to drive around in the overworld with friends. Like, you can't do that locally.
I kind of wish you could, frankly.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, is that's my note against it, is I wish that you could play that locally. I haven't had because I've played the game online, but I haven't like gotten into a call with friends and played it yet. That might have to be a dedicated stream where I play more of the online stuff, because we the time you couldn't show up, we were testing out the game share thing. Have you had an opportunity to test out any of the game share and game chat features, by the way?
No, I haven't.
We gotta do it.
It's funny. I was curious. if it's interesting. I don't know which games support it and which don't, because I thought like there were some games that you can kind of game share with a Switch 1 device, and they can kind of play it with you on their Switch 1, but I'm not sure which games. I don't think Mario Kart World is one of them.
Well, how many Switch 2 games are there? Like, I don't even know what would fit in that category. I mean, it seems like Donkey Kong is that, but
I think so. Donkey Kong will have it. I guess. Like, I assume like someone with the Switch can play as Pauline or something, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah, we saw that last time, and it's just the reticle. You just point at the screen and shoot rocks at stuff.
Yeah, that reminds me. When I was a kid, I was about to beat Mario Galaxy, but I could only beat it with my sister's help as the Luma. That's kind of a fun memory.
While we're wrapping up, there's one thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about earlier, and talking about generational differences when it comes to cartoons or eras of channels and changing. That every time there's something new, it's like the death of it. That the first time I learned in grade school how to like build a website, like they were pretty basic. Like the URLs were tied to the application we were using, so I don't know how real the websites were.
WordPress or what?
I think so. That I don't know if it's I can't imagine it's still out there, because it's probably like a subscription model. But the first website I made was like Chowder had just ended, or I think the finale was airing, and around that time Cartoon Network was rebranding to the Check It era, and that's when we got shows like Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Gumball, Regular Show, the shows that people say are the best, and like that channel's renaissance and some of the greatest cartoons in general. But as that was happening, as change was happening, and I was 9 years old, and I learned that they just canceled Chowder, I made a website about how Cartoon Network's dead, the death of Cartoon Network, they changed it, they killed it. And because that existed long before me, and I would be online and people would make that about my era, the nudes era, the little white guys running around.
You finally understood what it felt like.
Right. Well, I don't even know if I legitimately believed it. I mean, I did when I was making the site, but it's funny to think that as a kid when I was 9, even though I liked all those shows, the death of Cartoon Network was some of its best shows for a very long time.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any closing remarks? I feel like we've covered all the things we wanted to cover about Mario Kart.
It always reminds me of like how when I was a kid, people said they hated Victorious. It was like the worst new Disney show. And nowadays, like at least everyone my age looks back at it so fondly. And it's just it's so much of it is just kind of about growing up, you know.
And that happens it happens like clockwork.
Yeah,
and that's why
it does.
I tweeted the other day, like, in brackets, animated movie that came out from the 2000s to 2010s is peak, bro, because that always happens. There's some animated film that came out when probably the people posting it were children, and they're like, no, this movie's actually slept on, and it's like a mediocre mid, like, animated film that really does nothing special, but, you know, they saw it when they were kids, so that's why it's like the best thing ever. I still see
the
edits.
Good dinosaurs slept on, dude. The good
dinosaurs. The crudes, dude. We had a big caveman era, or a big prehistoric era at that time. I still see it when it comes to fucking Revenge of the Sith, and that is not a good movie. I don't care how many edits people watch.
There's some movies that are meant to be experienced as TikTok edits.
Yeah. Like the Cat in the Hat. Everyone check out Cat in the Hat live action. Dougal was peak, bro. It wasn't. I watched Dougal as a kid. See, that's why I'm not proud, but the argument is always like, oh, you can say that, oh, this person likes this thing just because of nostalgia, but everyone likes stuff because of nostalgia. But honestly, most of the movies I saw as a kid and I loved, I look back and I'm like, those were bad. And I feel like more people need to do that. And I'm not saying, like, oh, be negative all the time and don't embrace the things that you liked as a kid and don't heal your inner kid or whatever. But don't pretend like everything you watched as a kid was peak and it was just slept on and it's an unsung masterpiece, you know? I was watching live-action Fat Albert and I almost said Jack Sparrow. What's his real fucking name? Johnny Depp, Willy Wonka, and Minty's My Little Pony Christmas, Alvin and the Chipmunks, like all those movies. Those are movies I loved and grew up with. But if I went back to watch it, I'd get a little enjoyment and nostalgia. But it's not good. Those are not good movies. And that's why when I see people who are still posting about movies they grew up with, they're like, no, it's actually peak. It's like, man, you can still like it. It doesn't need to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I think like, for example, there was a point in time, especially when I was working up to making the Lemonade Mouth video, I kind of had a phase of just watching a lot of those Disney Channel DComs that I liked as a kid, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But obviously, you know, that's not really like, if I saw a DCom made today, like with new Disney Channel actors that I, you know, as a person in his 20s watching, I don't think I'm gonna get the same kind of emotions and fun out of it that I would rewatching like Lemonade Mouth. And that's not really a stain on either of those movies, really. I mean, I think the DComs are kind of made for what they're made for, and frankly, in a lot of ways, I think they do what they're supposed to. I just don't think, you know, they're really they're really trying to entertain anyone else but, you know, their child audience, you know?
Right. I mean, tying in
and
multiple
there's not
points,
anything necessarily wrong with that, to be fair.
Appealing to children? No. I mean, that's what they're made for. But tying in the points together of, you know, what you just said, watching stuff you watched as a kid, or maybe stuff that kids watch today, comments you get, and also the reviewers we were referring to that talked about cartoons. I do think a lot of them, there's sort of a family tree going down from the Nostalgia Critic. And the same thing happened on the Angry Video Game Nerd side. That the joke of these videos is that it's shit that doesn't really matter, like a cartoon for children or an NES video game, but they're playing characters who are reacting to it in an over-the-top manner. I think a lot of people who fancy themselves reviewers watched these videos and took it seriously, and then whenever they talk about cartoons for children or video games, they're like, they're screaming and they're saying like, whoever made this should be fired, you know? They're taking what was an exaggerated bit and taking it very seriously. Inversely, and maybe I'm just staving off criticism, but there are some things that I like. For example, the H2O video where I talked about H2O Just Add Water, which is a magical drama for tween girls, and I really liked it as a kid, so I hold a sort of reverence for it, even though I understand it's not good. And I sometimes still get comments that I feel like aren't understanding it, and maybe this is me being like, oh, you just don't get it. I think all criticisms are valid, but saying like, oh man, there's like this adult man yelling about a show for children, and that's a criticism you can levy at any of us, really, like, oh, adult person talking about children's show. or ranting about children's show. I just want to make it clear, whenever I'm like ranting about any of these shows, I'm not actually mad. I wrote it down into, like, you guys understand that, right? That none of these YouTubers are actually mad about these things. They're doing a bit for comedy. And I do think there's a disconnect there of some people who watch the video and be like, man, this dude is genuinely mad about H2O Just Add Water on Nickelodeon in 2009, the show for tween girls. It's like, no, man, I wanted to talk about the video. I wanted to talk about the show. I wanted an excuse to watch it again. So I'm just like, I'll make a video, and I want to make the video funny. So I'm pointing out the stuff that's stupid. I don't think those are necessarily valid. I think I try and do my best to separate videos into what I think are valid complaints and what I think are just like grasping at straws for comedic purposes. There's a lot of shows, if the main focus of the video is for comedic purposes, there's stuff I would call out that in a review I normally wouldn't call out. Like, oh, why would this character do this thing? Plot hole is not a really good critique of it, but it's there because it's a comedic video that exists for comedic purposes.
Exactly, and that's why I kind of toe the line very carefully in a lot of ways nowadays. But I don't know. It's always good to be reminded that it's just not like that serious.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like
I don't take any of it seriously. There was whenever there's like one of those viral tweets that's like, oh, quote tweet this, or like, has there ever been a so on and so forth, like clip of a show you like, and there was one that's like, oh, what's a movie that made you like viscerally mad, and I was like, oh, I want to have like a funny response to this, but I couldn't think of one. Like, there's definitely movies I've disliked or found annoying, but none of them have ever made me mad. Even like shows I don't like, I think every show deserves to exist, and I think there's also a dissonance there where when I'm talking about something I don't like, people kind of automatically assume it means like I wish it never existed, which is not the case. I obviously, I just want us to be making more shows and cartoons and games and movies anyway. If it's bad, I don't care. I'm glad it exists. I don't want it to, like, go away forever. The only show I have a differing opinion on is 13 Reasons Why, because not only is that a bad show, it's the only bad show that legitimately, like, made the lives of people worse, because it's the Netflix show that had a charted increase in teen suicides after the show. So that's the only show I would argue is legitimately detrimental to society. Like, I think it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Destructive?
Not destructive, sort of like snooty, but not pretentious. There's a level of pretension. I think it's totally fine to, like, make fun of shows people like, I mean, it's none of it's real. I think it's all fine and good. It's all in good fun. But I do kind of, you know, scoff at the people who are themselves scoffing at people watching certain shows, and they're like, oh, the people who watch this must be really, really dumb. Like, I get no enjoyment out of something like Love Island, and I've been seeing a lot of posts and been watching a lot of people watch it. But I don't think lesser of anyone for watching it, because I don't think anyone who watches it is genuinely like, oh, no, I'm worried about these guys. I feel for them. Like, I hope they find love. No, it's all for entertainment, you know? And I think the belief that the people who watch it are somehow lesser than you because they somehow don't get it, quote unquote, is a little childish.
Yeah.
Even though it's not a show I like to watch or think about. Do we have any more remarks? Because the next time, there's going to be an additional gap week, like I said. No Switch to Ultra podcast for the first time next week. And then the week after, we're going to return for episode 15, the week of the release of Donkey Kong Bonanza. So I have to just hope that nothing happens in that time. I don't think it will. I think we're good. I mean, nothing happened in between these weeks. I think we're good. However, I'll probably be caught up on all my shows, so I didn't do the ranking today, but I'm going to try and not wrap it up, but, you know, they got a lot of stuff at the bottom of that ranking. I need to move my way up. So I'll have a lot to discuss. Every time I think, like, oh, this is going to be a shorter episode or we won't have so much to talk about. Granted, we didn't talk about Mario Kart World for the majority of it, but the way these episodes go, you can never expect or plan a short episode. We always just start talking. We're always chopping it up. Earlier, I compared this to the podcast I tried when I was like 19, but even by the end of that, you could tell people were checked out. I'm glad that we're still always chopping it up, because I was worried, like, oh man, at some point we're going to run out of stuff to talk about. I just found two people that, you know, talk nonstop. Do you have any closing remarks you want to get in before we end the show?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Like I said, I don't know for sure when the Fantastic Four video is going up. I'm not going to give a select date because then that locks me in and I don't want to be wrong. I'm leaving for a trip on the 6th, so I'm going to try and get it out before then, and then, like I said, not Shadow Drop, but, Total Drama video at the end of the month. Hopefully, maybe. And, Switchy, you're still working on your Pocketail Island video, correct?
Yeah, same stuff.
But it's going to be nice when it releases, because every episode prior to this, that's always been your plot, and we're building up to it. And we'll do, like, a post-show. It's great. Well, I have been your co-parent, BH Ultra.
I've been your co-parent, Switchy.
And I'm going to hang up the phone for 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to hit this button. I didn't do it. Sorry, I left you out. I left you out in the rain. I didn't do it fast enough. All right, I need a song. You guys ever hear this one? Sounds like home movie.